Good morning, everybody. As Mako said, I'd like to welcome you all along to this morning's presentation. Just some introductions from the technical team from TMS. We've got James, Craig and Scott, who I'm sure most of you have maybe spoke to, maybe even been trained by them. We've also got a kind of nice delegation from SolidWorks themselves. So Tom, Molly, Amy and Nick are here. And I'm sure they'll let themselves known to you all at some point today. You know, this is the first face-to-face event that we've had since the lockdown. You know, it's kind of hard to believe. You know, it's you know, that 2 years ago, that you know, at that point when it was all announced that we were going to close everything down and how we were going to survive, and you know, there's been a lot of negatives, I'm sure, and I'm sure everybody's been touched in some way by somebody having COVID in your family and what have you. But interestingly, there were some positives that came out of it, and one of the things that came out of it was we've all now got so used to doing things digitally, online, communicating online. You know, Microsoft Teams, if you'd said to me 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I don't even know if it was around 3 years ago, you know, that there was a product called Microsoft Teams, I wouldn't have had a Scooby what you were talking about. Now it's like commonplace for us. You know, we use Teams, we use Zoom, you know, face-to-face, digital meetings, what have you. You know, the days of driving all over the place has gone. You know, we've moved into a digital world, really. We've kind of been forced on us in some ways. And for some people it's good, and for some people it's bad. But one of the things that it has shown is that it's possible to work remotely. We can work from home. We've all now got, you know, in terms of businesses, we've got our staff, you know, working 2-3 days at home and so many days in the office. We've got used to remote working. We've got used to online training. Any of you who've been in our training courses over the last couple of years will know that the training's all been done online, digitally. And obviously one of the things that ties into that is SolidWorks and the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. So you'll hear us talking about the platform and what have you through the day, and you'll get a chance at the breaks to see the platform in action if you take the time to do it. But SolidWorks has given you through the platform the ability to actually work remotely and to save data in the cloud. You know, again, everybody's a bit skeptical about, you know, the cloud and where you're going to save things, but in reality, all our bank details, everything we've got almost is stored in the cloud. So, albeit it was a bad thing that happened, and it was obviously, you know, nobody expected it, but some positives did come out of it. And like I said, even for me, you know, if you'd said to me, you know, a couple of years back, some of the things that we're now doing, I'd have said, no, I don't think so. But now it's just commonplace. So I'm not going to prattle on any longer. What I'll do now is just say, look, enjoy the day. There's a lot we need to show you. There's a lot to share about the product. You know, those of you who've been around the SolidWorks channel for a long time will know the product started in 1996. We're now in 2022, and we're still finding new things to add to the product. So hopefully you'll see some stuff today that's maybe things you've been hoping for, that you wanted to see. You know, I remember the early days of SolidWorks rollout events. where if a new feature was shown, and certainly in America this is the case, if a new feature was shown which was a good feature, everybody would stand up and clap. Now, I'm not asking anyone to do that today, and I don't know if that's just an American thing, but you would get everybody, oh, whoop, whoop, and clap and all this kind of stuff. So guys, if any of that happens, just go with the flow and do what you can. So as I said, thank you very much for coming along. As I said, lots for us to show, and I hope that you enjoy it. I'm going to hand you over to Mike now, and he'll take you through the next part of the presentation. Mike.
Hi everyone, I'm just the warm-up act for these guys, so I'll just give you a few brief updates about what we've been doing at TMS over the last year, how things have been going, any changes that we've had internally here, and like I said, try and move on quickly to what you came here to see today. So once again, thank you for coming along today. It's been 3 years now actually since we've been here last. 2019 for the 2020 launch event, and this is the first chance the opportunity we've got to come out and see everybody and meet face to face again. So it's wonderful to see everybody here, and obviously online as well. To start off with, then we've got a couple of new support team members I want to introduce. James, who's actually sitting at the end of the table there, he joined us at the end of August, and he comes from a mechanical engineering background. He worked for a company doing engineering support for a well-known furniture company, so he knows exactly how drawings are done, and the customer support is excellent, so I can't fault him. He's obviously got CSWP now as well. He's getting more and more certifications, so if you haven't spoken to James already or been trained by him, I'm sure you'll hear from him at some point soon. We've also brought on William, and William actually came from an internship here at the AFRC. Came in as a CSWP. Again, he's got more certifications he's bringing on board as well, and he's excelling. Since he started in September, you'll see William on stage here after the break, after lunch, sorry, and he'll be showing you some more stuff on that side. So I know, I don't know if William's here right now. I think he's outside, but welcome aboard, guys, again. So from the training perspective, we've obviously had a challenge over the last couple of years. And we had to adapt things that we had, or training we had to carry out, not being face-to-face. So we adopted a go-to-training tool, and we had instructor-led courses, and that's been excellent. We've had so many people on those courses over the last 2 years, and we're going to continue with that. Even over the last 4 months, it's been fully booked out. I've had to close off those courses because we just can't cope with the amount of people jumping on those. But we do want to get back face-to-face in the classroom at some point. So if anybody has any particular requirements or wants to come along and do that training with us, please let us know. In order to facilitate that, we've actually got all new mobile workstations in both our training rooms as well. So we've upgraded the old tower systems right up to brand new mobile workstations that are state-of-the-art. That's one of our smaller training rooms there, training room 2. So you can see it's all wireless and ready to go. So whenever you guys are ready to come in and do some more training with us, just give us a shout. Ebooks have also came on the scene recently. Over the last 2 years they've been available, but the ebooks are actually replacing physical manuals now. So instead of actually getting a paper copy, you're going to get an ebook that's good for 4 years. And that's got a range of benefits for everyone. It means you're not going to lose your book. You can always get it back wherever you go, and you can access it on any device as well. So just to make you aware of that change has happened. So another thing that's happened recently, and the reason that I bring it up is because we've had support tickets in nearly every day about this, and you may have already seen this happening, but the SolidWorks ID has been replaced by the 3DEXPERIENCE ID. So, and this has happened for wave 1 of the migration. What's actually happening is the SO systems are moving all of our customers into a new system to make it easier and better for you to access all of the content. There was an email notification that was sent out to all users, so hopefully you got that into admins. It looks like this, and it explains exactly what's happened, why the changes happened, and how you can still log into your systems. The download section, for instance, can be accessed just by going to the SolidWorks support and download section and logging in with the 3DEXPERIENCE button, not the SolidWorks user ID. So if you have any problems with that at all, just put a support ticket in or give us a call and we'll help you out with that. So the knowledge base, the customer portal, and training content are all in the same category. They've all been replaced by this. So if you do see SolidWorks ID, ignore that, go for the blue button that says 3D Experience. So you're going to hear more and more this 2023 launch about the platform, and you have done over the last couple of years. We're moving more and more tools, and the connectivity between SolidWorks and the platform tools are becoming just seamless. You know, we've got SolidWorks. When you open up SolidWorks now, you see those tools straight away. When you open up the platform, you see SolidWorks in there right away as well. And you're going to see some of the content the guys are going to deliver today that just explains why that's a benefit to you and how that can help you going forward. Some of the tools just popping up there. And what that means for you as well is we've changed from the EULA, the end user license agreement, to the closer just recently too. And that's the license structure changing has a benefit to you as a customer because you have access to more features, more functions in the whole base that we have available on the platform. It also means that now term license is available for all desktop products too. So that's a new function, a new feature that's coming in that's going to be of benefit if you're bringing in someone on a short-term basis. You can fire up a term license and then move on and let it go once you're finished. And that's going to apply to term licenses on networks as well, which is a brand new thing. You'll hear a little bit about the network license manager changing shortly too. And that just adds up to all the tools you need when you need them. So I'm sure you can speak to one of your account managers if you need any more information on that side. SolidWorks 2023 SP0 actually was released on Monday. So when you're done here today, you can download it, but it's up to you. Obviously, you don't want to go ahead and start installing it if there's other users out there that you don't want to change the file formats and upgrade them and not tell anyone about it, basically. So if you've got any questions about that, just let us know. It's available at the download section, like I said earlier, and that's the exact button I was telling about. So to launch the 3D Experience login, you click that blue button there and log in. And I'm going to let this video play now and pass it back to you guys. Thank you very much.
So much has changed over the last 10 years, hasn't it? Over the last 10 years, what changes have you experienced? I bet the ways you connect to your job and accomplish your work are most certainly different. Progress must be part of your purpose. To make great design successful, you must also master the business of product innovation. Where we used to think of CAD data as the main source of truth, actually product development information is all around us, in every conversation, idea, interaction.
Welcome to 3D Experience World 2021.
As smoothly as your team works together, what about your extended value network?
At this point, let me invite William and Charles from Square Robot. What made you pick 3D Experience platform?
We really needed a mechanism to store and organize revision-controlled CAD data in the cloud. And so we looked to 3D Experience to do that.
For 2023, the SolidWorks R&D team, as usual, has delivered an amazing lineup of enhancements to help you work smarter, faster, and together. Not just together as a team, but also connected to your data and your tools. In 2023, we will improve your productivity and optimize your CAD potential. But to truly accelerate your innovation, you need to make all product information available for your entire enterprise to access and act on real time throughout the day, wherever they are. As you look to 2023, how will you continue to improve your productivity and expand creativity? How will you inspire those around you? For now, sit back and enjoy the demonstrations that follow. Share them with your friends, and let's make 2023 together the most innovative and successful year yet. Oh, and see you next at Nashville for 3D Experience World.
Alright, so I guess that's over to the three of us who'll take you through most of the stuff in regards to kind of what's new for 2023. Now, just before we go on to 2023, I'm going to kind of let this video play in the background, and what we're kind of just showing is some of the enhancements that have came from 2018 up to pretty much 2023. Obviously that's useful because not everyone necessarily upgrades every single year. So obviously there's some people that might upgrade from 22 to 23, so they just care about what we're going to show in the next few hours sort of idea. But a lot of people maybe only upgrade every 2-3 years, that sort of idea. So this is just trying to show for each of the different sections of main SolidWorks, so kind of parts and then a bit of assemblies, drawings, and a bit about user interface, just some of the enhancements that are taking place in there. Now, I'm not going to kind of go through obviously kind of demonstration for every single particular feature. We will kind of jump through the years, kind of going back and forward with some of those enhancements. But we'll obviously talk you through a couple of the enhancements, obviously as we're kind of seeing them on screen and some of the background stuff. And there will be a few of these that obviously are for 2023. So obviously you'll see them in a bit more detail, whether it's from me, Scott, James or William this afternoon. We won't necessarily in this go through the enhancements specific to all of the add-ins. So obviously when we're looking at kind of PDM, simulation, composer, visualize, inspection, MBD, all of that sort of stuff, we're not quite going into them in this video. It's mostly the main SolidWorks that we're interested in, that sort of idea. So I'll just be picking out a few of them as we go through and kind of talk about them in a wee bit more detail. So this was one that was added back in 2020, I believe. So obviously if we're wanting to add more of a texture to a model, so rather than just simply applying a decal, that we can actually apply and kind of add or remove material inside there. And obviously we've got some changes here to the kind of direct mesh. Obviously that's more important kind of non-SolidWorks parts. So obviously could be kind of step edges and all of that sort of stuff inside here. Stud wizard is, you can almost think of it as not too dissimilar to the kind of whole wizard, where you can pick obviously your standards and the types of size that you've got inside here. Now the D feature tool that's on screen is something that's kind of similar to, if you've heard the terminology, simplify. So this is where you might want to obviously send a model that you've made to another customer, but that's where obviously if you don't want to send them absolutely everything so they can see exactly how you created that part kind of feature by feature, you can kind of simplify that down a little bit and you send them almost like a kind of dumbed down model. Some people do that in terms of saving a step or an IGES file, which can work. So obviously when you open that up, you don't have a feature tree. So that D-feature tool is another way that you could potentially go about doing something like this. And if you did attend the 2019 launch event, you'd probably recognise this kind of telescope model, and if you came to that launch event, we actually had that in kind of VR as well, so you can kind of walk around the model using kind of e-drawings, which gives you then the scale of the model, that it's not just a simplified dumbed down model with this kind of telescope and all of its different sections. You can actually go into the workshop, you can find the bathrooms, you can go up to the top lens, you can go onto the balcony, look over it, all of that sort of stuff. So if you do get ever the chance to see that kind of telescope model, and even some of the other models we'll look at today, if you get the chance to see them in VR, which most of us will have access to through kind of eDrawings Professional, you can have that, and it can be quite good to see and interact with that. We'll talk a bit more about that as we go through the day. And obviously again, that D feature, you can also use that in the assembly environment as well, so it's not just specific to the part environment that we looked at as well. Got some changes to obviously the slot tools when it comes to mate with the position. You can obviously make a slot picked so it's centred on kind of one side or the other, or have that in the middle. This is another enhancement that we saw, I believe it was last year if I remember correctly, the flexible components. So that's where obviously we can see as we kind of drag things around, obviously any of the mates will update in real time. Obviously as we drag our mouse, as soon as we kind of let go of the mouse, it will update the model and the components inside there. Flip alignment seems quite a simple one, but it's a bit of a quicker way to access that. Kind of previously you would have to kind of add in the mate, and if you didn't do the clicks quite in the right place, you've all of a sudden got the screw pointing the wrong direction. You've got to go to your mates in the tree, right click, edit the mate, find the ticker, flip alignment box and do that. So it was obviously a quicker way of going about that. And what popped up there a second ago, I don't know how many of you guys use the S key when you're modelling up in SolidWorks to get that little kind of fly out window appear. It's a quick way of accessing your model relevant features. And that S key will change whether you're in the part, assembly, drawing environment, but also if you're actually inside a feature, it will pop up with relevant sections in here. This optimised resolve is one that's actually new for 2023, and I think it'll be a mix of in the assemblies, kind of Scott and James that will be talking about the assembly side of things. That's going to be a way that you can make things open up a wee bit quicker. And obviously we can then export the kind of assemblies and stuff like that out as a step file as well. Quick recap of some of the enhancements in the kind of user interface side of things that's kind of just generally using SolidWorks. Again, some of these are obviously to make your kind of day-to-day use a bit quicker. I'm not sure how many of you use the mouse gestures. So it's when you can kind of move your mouse kind of just up, down, left, right, and you can pick what features they're obviously relevant to inside there. And obviously when you're seeing these little arrows pointing out, that's the parent and child relations inside SolidWorks. If you don't have them turned on, you can get that from clicking the view option at the top of SolidWorks. It's under the user interface. You can turn them on inside there. This is obviously searching for the commands that you can add to the S key. So a little bit down at the bottom right there is the S key fly out. You can add more features there, or you can always search and just add them to the command manager at the top of SolidWorks inside there. Then obviously we've got other keyboard shortcuts as well to hide and show other parts of things in SolidWorks. It doesn't necessarily have to just be the tab key that you hit to hide and show parts or solid bodies inside here. So that's again showing the S key. One might not be intuitive straight away if you've never used it before, but if you get into the habit of using even just one or two shortcuts, you pick one thing that you do every day, learn that shortcut this week, next week pick something different and go from them in there. And obviously we've got the additional abilities in regards to kind of comments. So obviously this is just using the desktop SolidWorks. If you decide to use the platform side of things, obviously there's comments and stuff you can add in there, whether it's tasks or that you're using. Then obviously we're looking at some enhancements over the last kind of 4 or 5 years in regards to the drawing side of things. So obviously been some changes to the kind of bill of materials, and then obviously you've got options to export that into Excel if you want to in here. And obviously we've got different dimension types that you can obviously add in there. So don't always have to use model items, you might just use a smart dimension tool and pick a different way of adding in your models in there. Detailing mode is something that had quite a bit of changes in kind of 1 or 2 years ago, kind of starting with 2020. And it's a way that you can open up your drawings a little bit quicker, but still have capability to make changes to your drawing. So rather than open up just in quick view, which opens up the quickest, but you're kind of limited in what features you can actually use, detailing mode can be quite handy in there. And then there was a big change there with the geometric tolerances and stuff like that. If you're adding them in there, the kind of user interface and how they're selected changed in there. So that's obviously just going back to the detailing mode that I mentioned a second ago, how we can add and change stuff inside there. And this will be actually open drawings here. This is one that actually myself I'll talk about in more detail. We come to look at the enhancements in 2023 specifically with the drawing side of things. So this is almost like a little preview of the things to come when it comes to 2023 and the drawing enhancements. And you'll see different colours based on things that have kind of been overwritten, all that sort of stuff. Then obviously when we're adding in the balloons to our model, we can have a kind of quantity, so rather than necessarily splitting the actual balloon circle in half and showing our info above and below, we can have a wee bit of info to the side. And obviously when we're on that topic of balloons and bill of materials, some additional changes to kind of how we can kind of filter and search through the bill of materials. We can hide and show different columns at different times, different bits of info and certain properties from there. And then obviously in our document properties we can control the transparency in the drawing to try and mimic what would be in the part or assembly. So that's how we can see the little kind of increments of the dial inside there. Obviously if you're wanting to see more of the enhancements over the years, obviously every year there's always a what's new PDF file that you can get from inside SolidWorks. When you go to kind of help, you can see kind of what's new, and either get the HTML version or PDF version that just tells you what's new that particular year. Obviously if there's a particular topic or precise area that you're interested in, and maybe you're upgrading from 2015, spoke to customers that are still in 2015, 2012 even, a few weeks ago. If you want to kind of know some of the big things that are new through the years, by all means you can get in touch and let us know from there, that side of things. But what we'll do then is we'll get started with the kind of main chunks. This is how it will be kind of broken down. So I'll pass it over to Scott, who'll give you a little bit of a roadmap and go from there.
Alright guys, so yeah, like Craig said, we'll just take a quick look at what we're going to be covering today. So in terms of the 2023 enhancements, the first part of the day, you'll see some enhancements to the three core groups that I'm sure we're all working on in some levels, or parts, assemblies and drawings. We'll also look at changes to the admin side of things, which are always great for making our lives a little bit easier. We've got a couple of apps on the 3DEXPERIENCE side of things, 3D Sculptor and 3D Creator, and we'll run through some of the updates to sheet metal and routing as well, and then we'll stop for some lunch at that point. After that, we'll see what's new with the data management and simulation side of things, and we'll cover a few of the other SolidWorks products as well, like Visualize and Inspection and Electrical. And we'll hop in and out of the 3DEXPERIENCE platform throughout the day as well, so you can see some of the good stuff that we've got going on in there. To start us off though, I'll take us through what's new with the user experience side of things, where we've got some updates to things like comments, like we just saw we kind of preview of there. Ways we can reset any customizations we make to the interface, and we've got some stability and performance improvements as well with the render system there. So we'll just dive straight into that. So as a SolidWorks user, you expect the best out of your software when it comes to customization, performance, and working alongside others. And SolidWorks 2023 significantly improves the user experience. So communication with your team during a project is vital, and it's a great way to do this is through comments. For 2023, these have been updated quite significantly, so you can now emphasise text using bold, italic or underline modifiers. Adding a screenshot to the comment is nice and easy as well. You can add images from your local machine to give your comments some more context. The background colour can also be changed so you can understand the priority of the comment straight away. And these labels can be customised to add even more sort of clarity as well. So if a comment is very important as well, you can set it to appear when you open up the document. And SolidWorks has always had a very customisable interface, but sometimes you can end up customising it too much and you actually just make it a bit more confusing and difficult to find the command you're looking for. So you might want a fresh start. In 2023, you can now more easily restore the default settings. So each tab of the Customise window now has a Reset to Defaults button that allows you to reset that specific tab settings. So you can reset the command manager, or you can remove all your customizations. And obviously we have to talk about performance as well. So the render system released in 2019, to improve frame rates during pan, zoom and rotate. That's been dramatically optimized as well. So many issues have been resolved here, and customer feedback on this has been heard. So you'll now have greater reliability with the enhanced graphics performance box checked. So you can utilize the faster frame rates when viewing large assemblies especially, or parts with complex geometry. So a better user experience obviously means improved productivity. Customizing the user interface, communicating effectively and improving frame rates allows you and your team to speed through your designs. And communication can be taken even further if you're storing your data on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. All users can be given access to view content and even add markups on any device with a web browser. These markups are stored with the data and shared directly so that the right people have access to the right data at the right time. So that's everything on the user experience side of things, and I'm sure you'll agree some really nice wee enhancements in there, just with the new comments and the ability to kind of reset specific parts of your customised interface. But that's all on that side of things, so I'll pass you on to James now, and he's going to run through the enhancements to parts and features.
Right, so I'm going to cover sort of the new enhancements to parts and features, and with this we're just going to be using this sort of assembly of this all-terrain vehicle design. So some of the enhancements we've got here, we've got some wrapping, some new single line fonts, we've got allowing errors in library features just so you don't need to go back and edit them, some more sort of automatic construction lines, some more sort of areas where you can use equations, and some enhancements to the dfeature tool. So SolidWorks is the most feature-rich CAD solution available, but that doesn't mean significant improvements can't be made. In SolidWorks 2023, Dassault Systems have focused on expanding the capabilities of existing features to make you more productive. Inscribing information such as serial numbers or model names into cylindrical surfaces is best done with single-line fonts. SolidWorks 2023 allows you to scribe these fonts using the wrap feature. So adding the logo here at the end of the handle is easy with library features. Just drag and drop. However, in some situations, a reference may not be valid or otherwise broken. In 2023, you now have the option just to keep the feature and solve the issue manually rather than have to cancel it and then going into the library and editing and reapplying it. So that really just saves you time with that. So this design's a good start, but the smooth surface may not provide enough grip for the rider. So what we're going to do is create a pattern for ellipse-shaped bosses just to give the rider confidence when travelling over extreme terrain. So with 2023, you can now create ellipses with construction geometry. It's going to make orientation effortless, so all you need to do is select the construction line and apply a relation to it. Same case with defining it, all you need to do is select that same line and just dimension it there rather than selecting multiple points. Creating an offset body is easy, but how far along should the handle should replace it? Since we're creating a pattern in these bodies, it would be best to define the parameter based on a global variable that also defines the spacing of the instances. In SolidWorks 2023, the Move Copy Bodies command can now define translation and rotation of bodies with equations, even on a per configuration basis. So a design like this tends to be iterative, so having convenient access to these parameters will save time, and this is where using equations comes in, and allows you to make broad changes without having to edit each individual feature. So finally, reducing part complexity and protecting intellectual property is a great use of the dfeature tool. In some cases, you may not want to create a whole new part that then has to be managed, stored, or lifecycle managed with the PDM system. Coming in SolidWorks 2023 SP1, you'll be able to create a configuration of your defeatured parts, which can then be used for creating simplified versions. And this configuration is stored as a derived configuration, so it will adopt any changes made to its parent configuration. And this will also mean replacing the part in assemblies is just as simple as selecting the drop-down rather than selecting a new part file, reattaching all the mates. You'd simply just select the configuration. So these features coming in SolidWorks 2023, they're even better with this latest release, whether you're sketching, inscribing text, or just working with bodies. Saving your data to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform allows you to do much more with it. You'll have access to tools like advanced analysis with Similia, complex material models, highly accurate solvers, and powerful cloud technology that drastically reduces solve time. This means you'll make better designs faster with the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. So with that, we've seen some of these nice enhancements, whether it's expanding use of equations, so if you are creating any sort of updates or adjusting sizes, the more you can use equations, the sort of less margin of error that you're going to have for any sort of input problems. And expanding on that, with that there's now a new option to use the Euler method for angular rotation. And that's just going to allow you to use an order-independent method, which that means it is a lot better for use with configurations. And also the translation of bodies is also configurable, can be driven with global variables and equations. So I'm now going to pass you on to Craig, who's going to be covering the administration side of things.
So for the administration side of things, we're really just going to cover a tiny section of it and a little bit more with the license side of the admin. When we come back after our lunch, I'll talk a wee bit more about the admin side of things in terms of kind of system requirements and the service packs and operating systems, all of that side of things. I'll come back to that after lunch. But just a few wee changes with the license side of things. So obviously now you're going to have a bit more control over the flow simulation licenses. So you'll see the drop down appearing inside SolidWorks, so you can pick obviously what type of license it is you want to pull. Inside your license manager, so it's just on your own machine, not on the server. You'll have that new option down at the bottom left to automatically load the flow simulation models if there's obviously one kind of available, i.e. not everyone's, not all your colleagues are using all of the other ones from in there. And the other change to the licenses, obviously Mike kind of touched on it a tiny bit with the term licenses side of things. So you'll now get a kind of expiry reminder popping up with the term licenses. So in this case, we've opened it up kind of 15 days when it expires, so it will kind of give you little reminders of when they're in there. And obviously, if you're using those term licenses, that can obviously affect things like your access to kind of SolidWorks CAM and the kind of visualize side of things, because obviously they need to be on subscription if you've got kind of SolidWorks Premium or something in there. So that obviously gives you a reminder in there. So obviously, if it gets to kind of day -1, so to speak, and you can't open up visualize, that's potentially a good indication. Assuming you're obviously paying, you might need to just reactivate your license if you're using network licenses, and that's where it can be a bit handier to reactivate those licenses. So obviously on the left, if we're adding a new serial number, maybe you purchased an additional license or something, rather than going into the Windows add and remove programs, kind of modifying the license manager install, putting the serial number in there, confirming that modification, then going and activating the license, you can just do it all from inside the license manager program, which can make things a bit easier. And then when it comes to reactivating or activating those licenses, again, we can pick now in the drop down which specific licenses we want to pick, and we can see obviously the kind of expiry information and stuff for that from there, because you could potentially have different licenses that have different kind of renewal dates, all of that in there, so you'll be able to see them in there, and it'll kind of make some of them in bold, obviously, that are kind of expired, that sort of idea. So that's just one or two of the changes with more the license side of the administration. We'll come back to some of the other admin stuff after lunch. It'll stick with myself, where we're going to look a little bit about 3D Sculptor, which is one potential alternative. Not necessarily alternative, but it could be an alternative, or it could work in conjunction with some of the stuff that James went through with the enhancements to SolidWorks and the part environment inside there. And in this case, we're going to look at one of these models, an actual kind of white crate. We've got in here something that if you've attended any of the advanced parts training courses, you might have seen how one way we could create that potential crate inside there. So obviously 3D Sculptor is one of the apps on the platform. So obviously you'll hear us talk about the platform quite a bit. And obviously there's been quite a lot of enhancements added to that. I'll go through some of these after a little kind of demonstration, but we'll pretty much get started with things. So obviously products today have more style and complexity than ever before, but turning obviously your design ideas into functional CAD models can be difficult with some traditional modelling tools. 3D Sculptor takes a simpler, more kind of free-form approach that unlocks endless design possibilities, offering subdivision modelling inside a browser. So we're going to see how Dan, our designer, is going to use X-Shape, which is the 3D Sculptor, to create a sleek and stylish exterior for a C-scooter design. Dan's new components start with a few reference images, similar to what we could do in SolidWorks, and then subdivision modelling is going to begin with a primitive shape. It can then be scaled uniformly or potentially with a bounding box at any point in the design. We can push, pull, scale, rotate those subdivision models with the on-screen manipulator to sculpt any shape pretty much imaginable. We can add and remove edges or subdivide faces if we need a little bit more localized control in there. Curvature continually is maintained throughout, but if obviously sharp edges are needed, we could add a crease to make adjustments on the fly. Once obviously we're happy with a design that we've got, we can use our kind of tasks and stuff like that on the side of the platform, and we can drag that work to say kind of it's in work, we're making changes, then we can continue to obviously make further changes inside that in here. So we'll continue to use our kind of mirror tools. So obviously when we start to make one change to the mirror plane, obviously that change will be reflected on the other side, assuming we obviously want that. We'll use that kind of symmetry plane inside there. Obviously we can add more material with things like the extrude command, or we could insert entirely new subdivision models. So we don't always have to just use one subdivision model and go from there. We can use things like the lasso tool and align subdivision elements to a curve that can be drawn right on screen as needed. The net surface command is perfect for creating sub-D surfaces based on sketches and curves already set up in the model. Parameters of the new surface can be adjusted before sculpting it into a 3D shape. So as we're going through here to create a little bit of a side section of our model, again we can mirror that over to the other side if we want. We can also then turn on a working zone to isolate specific areas of our active sub-D model or surface. Multiple sub-D model bodies can be combined to a master model, or we could use a split command to divide that up into individual components. And then once we're finished, we can drag our task, saying that we had some work to do to complete, to kind of pass our model on, pretty much say that the work that I've been tasked to carry out has been complete. Adding manufacturing detail could then be done in XDesign, you'll see next, or we can actually just jump back to the kind of normal desktop SolidWorks. So it's not necessarily that X shapes are an alternative to using desktop solids. They can work perfectly kind of hand in hand. You can jump back and forward inside there. So as the design of the C-Scooter continues to evolve, we can then make new revisions with the built-in CAD data management on the platform, or we can create a branch of the product instead. So rather than necessarily creating revision A, B, C, D, we can create a little branch off to the side instead. So the 3D Sculptor freeform environment allows you to create those complex shapes and surfaces more easily than ever before. And obviously you can collaborate with your teammates to take your design concepts to production from any browser, obviously connected to the internet in there. So that's some of the enhancements obviously to 3D Sculptor. Again, if that's something of interest, maybe you've never used the Sculptor before, by all means just get in touch with us and stuff like that, and you can see even an examples of it and stuff like that during the breaks if you're interested. See some of its capabilities. Obviously with it linked into the platform, it gives you much more connectivity to everything else inside there. So with that, I'll pass it over to Scott, who's going to go through some of the stuff with 3D Creator.
Cheers, Craig. So yeah, we're staying on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform now, and we'll look at the 3D Creator role and some of the things we can do in there. So obviously anyone online, if they want to grab a wee screenshot of that, go ahead, but we'll just dive straight in just now and show you. So developing products nowadays requires more flexibility and teamwork than ever, and traditional design tools aren't always equipped to handle modern teams spread across the globe. 3D Creator gives us parametric modelling on the cloud, so everyone can stay connected while they take products from idea to delivery. So let's see how Don here, who's somehow managed to land a designer job without having any eyes, can use the XDesign app to complete the latest C-Scooter assembly. His first task is to design the battery enclosure. And part design typically begins with a sketch, and commands are easily accessible from context menus and shortcut rings. And you can see how easily we can pop in a sketch filter there just by dragging our mouse over the corners of the sketch there. We can easily switch between extrudes, revolves and sweeps, all from one command with our super features. And user parameters can drive both sketch and features geometry, so design changes can update predictably. Shortcut rings adapt to the working environment to keep the most relevant commands close at hand. And command parking adds sketches or reference geometry on the fly without having to leave the feature. Design Assistance anticipates our next steps, which can help to speed things up by making sketching less repetitive and making our sketch selections for these features is faster than ever. Or you can skip the sketch entirely, and you can extrude from any existing face, and we can use the complex blends feature to create a variable radius fillet like we'll see just here. We can drag and drop to insert a part from an assembly from another XDesign window. So it's all connected in here. We can just go and drag that straight over and pop it in. And assembling components is easy with intuitive context tools that recommend mates based on selected geometry, just like we would see in our context toolbar in SolidWorks, for example. We can create a new component from an existing feature straight from the right-click menu or in the context of the assembly as well. We can also import PCBs and other ECAD files in traditional IDF formats, as we'll see just here. And the snap to fit mating tools can speed up repetitive assembly tasks, and AI helps us predict the placement of similar components so we don't have to go through the same steps over and over. Copy with mates replicates components where patterns don't apply, which again can really help to speed up the assembly process. And advanced mates allow designers to visualize complex motion scenarios, as we can see just in a wee second here. I'm probably talking a little bit too fast here. I'm kind of jumping ahead of a bit in the video there, sorry. Yeah, so there's our wee motion scenario there. Built-in collaboration tools can connect you with your team, so working together on designs is easier than ever. There's no need to jump back and forth between different apps in order to convey your ideas. And we can create and review markups to clearly communicate these ideas and share updated models all within the design workspace. Jumping back into the model, we can easily drive our component patterns and assemblies by simply selecting existing pattern features that we've already used to build up our geometry. Reusing sketches from other components is nice and simple, and again can save us some time and ensure that we have standardization across the board, like you can see with this sketch for the wee logo on the side there. We can create cosmetic or production-ready physical threads for most standard thread types, and integrated 3D printing places components in a virtual print bed configurable to the settings of most 3D printers. The auto-arrange tool intelligently lays out parts to avoid merging, and support analysis determines what areas in the design will need support during printing. And we can begin physical prototyping straight away by connecting to our supported cloud printers or exporting in most common 3D formats. So as we can see there, the 3D Creator gives us all the tools we need to complete design tasks, connect with your team and prepare for manufacturing. And this can all be done from a web browser on any device. So I'm sure you'll agree, some really nice stuff in there. Can really help us to speed up the entire assembly process. Particularly things like the design assistant that can save us time with those repetitive tasks, and the smart mates to predict what we're going to do next as soon as we drop the components into the assembly. So that's our overview on 3D Creator, and again we're going to pass you back to Craig. He's going to look at the enhancements to sheet metal and structures.
Thanks there, Scott. So take a step back, I guess, to the normal kind of desktop SolidWorks. We're going to look at kind of three main things. We're going to look at obviously sheet metal, and then we're going to look at structures, but obviously structures kind of works hand in hand and is very similar to our kind of weldments. We've obviously used that before, and weldments is obviously something people are a little bit more familiar with. Structures is kind of fairly a bit newer, but we'll be looking at them inside here. And this is a model we'll be using for not only this section I'll be going through, but also when we come back to the drawings in a wee bit, we'll be using this similar model and track inside here. So obviously sheet metal and structures and weldments kind of work hand in hand, and we'll see some enhancements to kind of sensors that we can add in regards to sheet metal and structures, some changes to kind of the thickness, and there'll be quite a lot of stuff where we can kind of group things to try and make kind of repetitive tasks. You'll probably hear us say that a few times throughout the day, trying to make those kind of repetitive tasks that you might do over and over again a bit quicker and simpler inside there. So we'll go through some examples. In SolidWorks, structural systems and sheet metal have new enhancements for 2023 that enable smoother design to manufacture and speed up the workflow of tedious tasks. This track setting machine has a hydraulic guard that needs to be extended to further protect the couplings underneath from heavy equipment and potentially falling debris during operation. Opening this sheet metal part, we can easily extend the front part by a further kind of 2 inches to cover that coupling. But notice when we make this change, a little new sensor has popped up at the top left corner, and that can dynamically warn us if the flat pattern exceeds kind of set widths or heights and distances inside there regarding the bounding box. The new features saves redesign time by catching those costly mistakes to your sheet metal parts, so they'll sail through manufacturing. By reducing the outer dimensions of this part, we'll see that the warning is now disappeared, so we know that's a bit easier to manufacture. When this part was initially created, a sketch was used to create the initial base flange, where all the bends were dimensioned equally, but when accounting for the material thickness, it results in different radius values. So you can see our kind of 1.4, 1.29. Now, that's a problem obviously for manufacturing, and since this requires additional machine setup, we want to try and make things easier. Now in 2023, we can choose the new symmetrical option, ensuring that we have identical inside and outside resulting bend radius. So we've now got that 1.4, making manufacturing a bit easier. We used a gauge table for potentially the sheet metal part, and now in the drawing, the gauge value can be added directly to the cut list properties, preventing the need to create an additional global variable and setting up equations for that. As we're preparing to ship the machine, we need to build a sturdy, reusable shipping crate to prevent damage while transporting from job site to job site. SolidWorks Structural Systems is used to build this steel crate from a combination of 3D sketches that were created, and we can use them for our primary members, reference planes, as well as secondary members. But sometimes we'll see the corners that might not be easy to manufacture, so we might want to kind of tweak them up. New in SolidWorks 2023 Structural Systems, we can now automatically group similar corners to apply the same corner treatment to multiple corners at the same time. So it's a little kind of pink arrows that we're seeing. We're going to apply the same corner treatment to all of those, and we can use the right click zoom to selection to see how those behave. So when we change the order, that order is not going to be only changed there, but it's going to be changed elsewhere throughout our system. We may want to build a more durable crate with larger square tube stocks, and potentially also add in any kind of gussets. And similar to before, where we can group similar sections for the corner treatment, we can do similar things in here. So we can see that that's added that into all the corners that are of similar kind of sizes inside there. So SolidWorks Sheet Metal and Structural Systems in 2023 tries to accelerate your design to manufacture with the workflow and added features to try and make things when they get sent to the shop floor a little bit easier to manufacture. And obviously we can add in those sensors, and there's other sensors we can add in as well for obviously our sheet metal stuff as well. Then again, if we were to potentially connect that design to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, we can obviously then share that inside here. So in this case we're looking at the kind of issue management, because obviously when the sensors had an issue, using potentially the issue management, and we could potentially say when that's kind of been fixed, because we were tasked with this to be done, and then potentially we could send that for approval, all that sort of stuff from there. So that's just some enhancements mostly to structural systems, a wee bit of kind of sheet metal with the sensors and the thickness, the bend radius, all that sort of stuff in there. So it's just a couple of images to explain a few of them. So obviously for the sensors we can monitor obviously the length, the width, the kind of area and the box being blank, and obviously that information can also be shown in our properties to obviously pull through to the drawing. Then we can have obviously that similar thickness, watching out for the bend radius to make sure they're the same when we add them in there. Then obviously all that properties from our sheet metal stuff, we might want to obviously show that in the drawing. Again, you don't need to create a note for this on the right hand side. We have got one note that's all of a sudden you've typed in kind of 15 lines. You can kind of just right click and insert the kind of cut list properties, and that will create this little list in here. But now we can also have the kind of gauge be added in there as well. Then obviously in the structural systems, we can try to kind of group things together, not only with this corner treatment, but also if we're adding in things like our gussets and stuff like that inside there. And you can have in there, when you've got your different kind of members, if you've got different sizes, it'll be a wee bit easier to control them through configurations. And obviously you can save each of those configurations out to an individual part, potentially, if you wanted to. And then if you are adjusting any of the corner treatment, you can now use the kind of zoom to selection, rather than you having to manually zoom into what corner is it that I'm adjusting at any given time. So that makes life a wee bit easier in there. And again, we can pattern any kind of connection elements, so potentially if we're adding kind of little gussets and stuff like that inside there. So that's some of those enhancements to the sheet metal structural systems and weldments. So I'm going to move on to assembly modelling, which will be a combination of James and Scott.
Cheers, Frank. Yeah, some really nice enhancements there for sheet metal, but we'll jump on to the assembly side of things now, and we'll see some of the enhancements that we'll go through here. So we've got some changes to patterns, replace component and mate references. We've had a little update as well, and we've also got our assembly visualization that's had some changes to make it a little bit easier to use as well. So yeah, we'll dive in and take you through some of these. So over the years, SolidWorks assemblies have brought intuitive and efficient workflow capabilities that help bring your complex models to life. SolidWorks 2023 expands on new assembly enhancements and continues to accelerate performance. So let's take a look at some of these new capabilities. Creating assembly patterns is a common time-saving practice, and patterns such as this linear pattern often require some instances to be skipped with differing variations between our configurations. The traditional workflow here would need multiple pattern features or instances to be suppressed or unsuppressed depending on what we're looking for in each configuration. In SOLIDWORKS 2023 though, this is no longer the case, so any pattern type that supports skipped instances now also supports configurations. So we now have a much more direct way to modify our patterns where we can just jump into each of the configurations. We've got the same menu we would usually see there. And we can just pick out which instances we do or don't want to be shown for each one, really speeding up that process. If we bring cost into consideration, having a rubberized wheel might be a better option than the current ball bearing that we've got selected here. And using replace component is a simple way to swap out our parts, and you'll now see additional options have been added. 2023 gives us the ability to replace a single component, multiple components in the current assembly, and can also control the current behaviour of the assembly and sub-assemblies. And we also have a nice little preview window there as well, giving us some visual feedback, make sure we're getting the correct replacement. But during that replace command, a rebuild error occurs due to a failed concentric mate. The mismatched face IDs can often lead to lost productivity during assembly design, but with SOLIDWORKS 2023 you'll be glad to see we now have a new auto repair feature built into the context toolbar, or located in the right mouse button on the mate group. Auto repair will automatically look for similar faces, edges or vertices or reference geometry and attempt to reattach any missing items. It's a huge time saver for keeping your assemblies error free when you're making these changes. With multiple configurations in this assembly, you'll want to ensure the bill of materials appropriately reflects each instance. In previous versions of SOLIDWORKS, this option could be set in the configuration or bill of materials properties, which is a bit of a manual and sometimes overlooked process. In SOLIDWORKS 2023 though, we have a new document property type, allowing configurations to be used as the default part number. Enabling this option will make sure unique configurations are accurately represented in our BOMs. To allow for proper assembly of the manufactured model, an assembly cut will be needed so we can access some key fasteners. In SOLIDWORKS 2023, assembly cuts include the same end conditions as seen at the part level, giving us a little bit more flexibility in there. In this case, adding an up to surface end condition will automate the exact cut depth, regardless of any changes to the conveyor's geometry. Using a box select will gather all intersecting parts to be included in the cut, which includes some toolbox components in this case. Now this could lead to some issues downstream with the propagate to parts option checked, but in SOLIDWORKS 2023, toolbox components are automatically removed from this list and a notification is shown to let you know, giving you an extra level of security and a bit of peace of mind that you're not accidentally going to modify something that maybe you shouldn't be touching. Now, looking at the conveyor assembly, multiple configurations have been created for this. To speed up the layout process, magnetic mates have also had a little bit of an update. So these have been defined in this assembly, but depending on which configuration we're in, different magnetic connection points may or may not be needed. SOLIDWORKS 2023 adds new functionality to magnetic mates by allowing you to suppress and unsuppress individual connection points. This gives us some extended functionality to an already really powerful way to approach your assembly process. Even with configured magnetic connections, getting the right placement can sometimes be a tedious task. For 2023, magnetic connection points respect the visibility of the part or the assembly they're attached to, so using things like hide, isolate and display states will help you to focus on the areas where new connections are taking place, like we can see there. Now, a tool that maybe doesn't always get used as much as it should do is assembly visualization, which offers a dynamic way to display and sort information about your assembly. In 2023, additional support for lightweight mode is introduced, no longer requiring you to resolve components to see properties such as mass and total weight. The properties drop-down list has also been updated to an alphabetical order, a much more intuitive way to locate commonly used properties such as graphics triangles. And if you've used this tool in the past, then you'll be glad to see that the rollback bar has also been thickened to make it much easier to grab and drag up and down in there, so you can kind of position that where you want to see different components. So as you can see, this assembly now is starting to grow in complexity, and we all know that can have an impact on overall performance. SOLIDWORKS 2023 simplifies working with large assemblies with a new system option in the performance section. Enabling this improves performance by selectively using lightweight technology when you load components in resolve mode, taking out the manual process of switching between the two. With this new option available, you can spend more time on your design and less time messing around with different assembly modes. Large assemblies can also introduce issues when working with external vendors and neutral file types, such as the commonly used step format. And SOLIDWORKS 2023 now supports exporting assemblies as multiple step files through another system option. With this one enabled, step files for the top level, sub-assembly and individual parts can be created, making things a lot more streamlined when working with those neutral file types. So whether you're building simple or complex assemblies, SOLIDWORKS 2023 offers an array of new enhancements to ensure your job can be done as efficiently as possible. Being able to do things like skip instances in your assembly patterns, quickly repair missing mate references after replacing components, and having confidence that our assembly features won't affect our toolbox components will make things a lot quicker and easier than they were in the past. And there we just have a quick summary of some of those enhancements, and I think a lot of these will start to make our lives a lot easier when working with these large assemblies or assemblies with multiple configurations. We also have a couple of changes, like being able to modify the colour of our explode lines in our system options or within the sketch. And we'll see a prompt when we close a design table where we've manually entered some values, so we can choose between those values we've entered or the ones that are calculated from the model. We're not quite finished there with assembly enhancements, sorry, but I'm going to pass you on to James now, who's going to take us through some of this new optimised resolve mode.
Cheers, Scott. So one of the most exciting new enhancements in 2023 is the option to enable this optimised resolve mode. So this feature allows SOLIDWORKS to choose between lightweight and resolve technologies automatically, selecting the appropriate settings to allow optimal performance with no end user interaction. So to take a look at the possible increased performance, a benchmark on this 11,000 plus part component assembly was used. So this is a weather satellite. So infinite workflows could have been identified sort of to test these performance enhancements, but in the end one had to be chosen. So in this case, 4 sub-assemblies deep, there was presented a rebuild error due to a misordered equation set. So loading the assembly, identifying the issue and resolving the problem would require multiple lightweight to resolve operations, as we'll see in 2022. This same workflow was tested in 2023 with both optimised resolve mode and lightweight operations. So in 2022, on fully resolved, this is on a machine running an AMD Ryzen 7 and an RTX A6000 GPU. This to open gave a rough time of around 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Because the assembly was fully resolved and open, the rebuild error was easily traced to 4 levels deep. To open, locate and edit the sub-assembly, the time is shy of 2 minutes 40 seconds. After the equation order was repaired, exiting out of the and editing the assembly, the final time 2 minutes 47 seconds. So that was on a fully resolved in 2022. So using lightweight mode presents many performance benefits, but can also introduce some issues not present when using a fully resolved model, such as having to manually track down the rebuild errors. So here we can see we open it here, and while it is faster to open, we're going to have to then manually track down these errors. So after opening with this error, there's the warning, but we need to drill down a bit further just to see where this problem is. Then opening this sub-assembly, it loads resolved, and this was introduced in 2022. So you're still required to resolve the sub-assemblies at this level to find the rebuild error. Fast to open, but can bottleneck workflows downstream. Looking at opening the assembly in 2023 with the standard resolve mode shows that you do see a performance increase against 2022. Just going to let that open there. So we do have this performance increase, and that will allow you to locate and repair the issue fairly quickly. So again, with this just being fully resolved, it is nice and quick to go in, drill down, find that equation set and just reorder that. So with that, we do see some savings over 2022, but we can get quicker. So now introducing the 2023 optimised resolve mode. It's truly the best of both worlds, and just simply, once it's enabled in your options, just make sure it's the mode option to open there. And then any underlying issue will automatically resolve its parent assemblies all the way up as needed. We can go in, fix that equation, and be done with that a lot quicker. So now to take a look at the final times, comparing all the different methods. In 2022 resolved, and there we have to open, and a total workflow time here just under 3 minutes. Lightweight, while faster to open, did take longer to fix the equation error. 2023 with the resolved, same open time, very similar times there to complete, but now with this new optimized resolved, we look, the performance is incredible. You've got the advantage of opening in lightweight, but in terms of completing the workflow, fixing that error is a lot quicker. So it's definite time saving, and obviously if you multiply this out with your assemblies, if you're getting bigger assemblies, if you're doing this multiple times a day, you're going to save so much more time using this optimized resolved. And the great thing about it is SolidWorks picks the best method every time for you, so you're not having to wonder, to open lightweight, to open resolved. You're always going to be quicker just using this optimized resolved method. So definite time savings there. So now with that, I'm just going to pass you over to Craig, who's going to cover the drawings.
Alright, thanks there, James. So yep, definitely some performance improvements there. So yeah, so I'm going to take us through some examples in the drawing environment. And again, it's quite interesting actually, is I'm using the same model I did with the last section I was looking through. So obviously we've seen it a wee bit in some of the preview and right at the start that I was going through, but we'll have some options in regards to being able to open up the correct drawing at the right time. When it comes to bill of materials, we'll have some enhancements and changes to both filtering and overriding values, because sometimes we need to override whatever's appearing kind of automatically in our bill of materials. Some transparency changes, as well as some changes to the balloons and drawings. So documenting your design means usually making a SolidWorks drawing, and the more complex your products become, the more detailing is required in your drawing. Enhanced drawings in 2023 will help you create drawings with more automation, with higher accuracy and expanded utility, so you can get your designs built right the first time. You can now open an associated drawing of the parts or the sub-assemblies right from the higher level. Previously you had to open up the individual part and drill down in there. You can get this from inside the bill of materials as well, open up that appropriate drawing. It's common in a bill of materials to potentially make a manual override. You can have double click the cell and usually you will pop up saying you're going to override, and usually yes, and you can then type in the value you want. Now what there'll be is when you override, it will highlight the cells and the values that you've overwritten, rather than previously there'd be pretty much no way of knowing. And you can, in your system options, change what that particular colour is. But now what you can also do is restore that original value. Previously if you overwrote it, you're out of luck. You'd have to recreate that bill of materials inside there. When it comes to auto balloons, you can now show quantities outside of the balloon. This operation was previously only supported with manual balloons that you added in, so this enhancement improves the automation and provides better formatting tools when detailing assemblies. 2023 for bill of materials can also now be filtered with familiar spreadsheet style controls, similar to what you might be used to in Excel. So icons in the header indicate where the filters have been applied, and you can pretty much tick and untick them. And you can also customize them to add some and or statements, so you can have two filters pretty much be active at the same time inside there. And again, obviously for bill of materials, still gets too large, we can always use the split our table in half if the filters don't quite make our bill of materials short enough for us. And we can obviously hide and show those components if needed. Now, when it comes to visualizing transparent objects in a drawing view, now we've got easier with the new detailing option to see through transparency. So in this case, we've got our assembly on the left where we can see the kind of little dials and the values and stuff like that in there. So inside our detailing options, we can show that transparency and the hidden lines removed option in here. So when we come to drag in our views, we'll see them in there. Previously, we'd probably find that the numbers and stuff like that wouldn't be visible. So completing accurate documentation is essential to getting your designs built right the first time. Enhancements in drawings 2023 will help you accomplish your detailed drawing tasks faster and communicate your design intent even more efficiently. And again, obviously, if you link that to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform for your kind of secure data management side of things, then you can make sure that kind of most critical and important drawings are fully up to date, and obviously your team is completely informed whenever the drawings are complete. And again, you can get those notifications sent off to kind of manufacturing guys to actually get things built up from there. So with that, that's some at least of the enhancements to the drawing environment. Now, at this point, we've obviously got the options there to open the drawing. You can get that from the feature tree, obviously your graphics area, so top right image, or from the bill of materials. And the same is true for obviously your other types of tables as well. Maybe you've got cut lists and all that sort of stuff. You can change the colour that the override values are shown inside there. And obviously if we're using the auto balloon option, you can have the quantities be put in there. And again, obviously we've got the filter controls. So if you've ever used bill of materials in Excel or something, the filter options should be fairly intuitive inside there. We can add them to more than one. And again, we've got the display options from inside there, so we can show the transparency with a little tick box underneath where you should change the display style inside there. If you do have things like section views and detailing views as well, just watch out for sometimes when you're seeing these display styles, the high quality draft quality of that. If obviously it's a child view you're looking at, just be careful that you've not got the wee tick box tick to say like use parent options. Sometimes you'll see, I don't see as many options in this view, and it's because it's kind of copying from the parent. So that's just something to kind of keep an eye out in there. If you're using kind of geometric tolerances, you can now limit what kind of options appear in that based on obviously the standard you've picked. So in this case it's got ANSI in the image, but obviously we could have ISO or anything like that in there. So obviously if they don't meet a particular standard, you can have them be greyed out for ones that don't apply. Again, if you've not used so it's kind of 2022 and stuff, you're still a few years old, you'll see this geometric tolerance kind of interface, how we actually create them and add them. It was obviously been updated in the last year or so inside there, so we can have them be added in there. And then obviously there's now support for kind of new modifiers to be added in for different standards inside there. And we can also have a max tolerance be added in a little bit more intuitively, rather than us having to manually do that fully. We could tick this option to apply the max tolerance, obviously just put in our values, so kind of 0.01 in this particular case. If you're using a whole table, it can now, rather than just picking up holes that you've added in with like the hole wizard previous years, you can now pick up other holes, so whether that's holes that you've created, just manually drawing a circle, but you can also pick up other shapes that are kind of fairly simple, I'll say. So things like what we're seeing here with kind of slots and parallelograms and little curves that will pick up all of them. Obviously, if you make an absolutely crazy sketch that's not really a hole, then obviously it's not going to pick them up. But these are some of the shapes that it will pick up when you tick that kind of non-circular holes and slots inside there. So that kind of covers with the drawing side of things.
Enhancements to SOLIDWORKS routing provide improved automation to design routed systems and properly document them for manufacture. And when you connect to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, your routing libraries are automatically catalogued and securely stored in the cloud. This reduces your IT overhead of library management while providing accessibility to your shared data for all users. So we have some great enhancements, time-saving improvements, and just better overall user experience. Selecting a root segment now displays the length and diameter within the property manager. Harness bundle diameter also accounts for unused cores, which improves the accuracy of diameter and mass property calculations. Additionally, you can now display the bundle cross-section for the selected root segment. For flattened harnesses in drawings, auto balloons for both connectors and wires now appear neatly stacked, even if they are deleted and reinserted. When you hover on a connector table, it cross-highlights the connector symbol making it easier to identify symbols within the drawing. Adding a column to any table now provides a prompt to update all tables at once, eliminating many redundant steps. Splices now support multiple connection points, as opposed to requiring a separate splice for each circuit. As well as that, the design library includes a few new multi-circuit splice components. The routing library manager sees several enhancements in 2023. For example, the app launches much faster. There's the tap switching and overall responsiveness is improved as well. The redesigned component wizard interface makes it easier to configure library components. So that's what's new for SOLIDWORKS routing in 2023. I will now pass you over to Scott.
Cheers, William. So yeah, we'll move in a slightly different direction now, and we'll take a look at Visualize. So in here we've got some updates to the import options, previews, and we've got a new render engine as well. So let's just take a look at them just now. There's no more effective way to share your ideas than with eye-catching graphics, and there's no faster way to create those graphics than with Visualize 2023. Visualize has set the bar for creating incredible graphics from your CAD models, and for the 2023 release, the process just got a whole lot easier. So the enhancements in Visualize start at the very beginning of the process. Selecting an import option is obviously an important step that sets your project up for your purpose. In 2023, accelerates this process by filtering for only the most applicable options for SOLIDWORKS files. This simplifies our decision to a single question: do we want the individual control that component, part, body gives us, or do we want the convenience of grouping it all into one appearance into a single part? The component, part, body option works in similar fashion to the automatic mode of past releases, but it's been updated for this release with one important distinction. The import option now mimics the SOLIDWORKS assembly structure while retaining appearance control and Visualize. This is an ideal situation, as Visualize users can now take advantage of groupings such as sub-assemblies that were already defined in the SOLIDWORKS model. Putting your designs in context can go a long way, and Visualize has always been able to take advantage of nearly any kind of geometry you can get your hands on. In 2023, we'll see that the standard import options are still available for any non-SOLIDWORKS files, such as this GTLF file, or GLTF, sorry. It's common practice to improve performance by making use of preview mode while setting up our scene, especially if it involves complex or high-detail models. This can result in a lack of feedback on how our setup is interacting with the lighting. In Visualize 2023, the handling of previews has been improved, giving us a much better idea of how light will react with roughness maps and alpha transparency and things like that. We see light from the HDR shining off the wet spots of our trail model here, allowing us to be much more confident in our setup while still seeing the performance benefits of preview mode. Any advanced options such as height maps will be added on top when the rendering resumes. A common method in rendering is to create a colorway showing a variety of potential color options. Visualize is packed with efficiency tools for this kind of thing. As it always has, the appearance import option groups all same appearances into a single unit. With a much improved colour picker, this is now the easiest part of the process. With this update, we can bring in colours from nearly any source you can think of. A dedicated tab for colour palettes, so in cases where colours are not available to be imported, they can be added in a similar fashion to previous releases. On the colour tab, colour can be selected with the graphical display. We also see improvements to the colour picker as well, which can be used to select a value anywhere on screen. Its colour preview has been enlarged for greater accuracy, and with a colour chosen, we can add the swatch to our palette and lock the palette to prevent any further changes. Palettes can be exported as shared assets across users, or imported back into SOLIDWORKS so that the correct colours can be applied in the design phase. The last 8 colour selections will also remain in your recent colours across all sessions. This massively enhanced colour management system ensures your exact colour is always right there when you need it. The colour matched appearances are now ready to be applied, and the appearance import option provides a single drag replacement of all bodywork appearances. With the scene set, it's now time for final renders. Visualize 2023 offers a new rendering system with the stellar physically correct option. This is a welcome addition as it sets up Visualize for a host of new exciting features and easier integration with the 3DEXPERIENCE products. Of course, stunning graphics are meant to be shared, Once the renders are complete, it can be immediately uploaded to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform for the rest of the team to enjoy and provide feedback. This release brings a whole bunch of benefits that are guaranteed to reduce the time it takes to produce your sales and marketing content, enhancing the view of many that visualises the best tool to use when it comes to bringing CAD models to life. So there we saw how important Visualize has been enhanced so we can mimic the SOLIDWORKS tree. The preview quality has been improved to give a more accurate representation of the final render, and we'll be able to link it to all the 3DEXPERIENCE platform products in the future as well. We also saw a host of improvements to the colour picker, which will make that process a great deal easier and keep everyone working off of the same colours across the board. So apologies about that, guys. I'm not sure what happened with the video there, but I seem to jump back to the same point in there. But I'll hand you over to Craig now. He's going to dive into the data management side of things.
All right, thanks there, Scott. So yeah, so for the data management side of things, you're going to have to potentially put up with me for a good wee bit. We're going to look at two kind of options when it comes to data management. Now we'll start off with looking at the kind of PDM, whether that's PDM standard or PDM professional. And then we'll look at some of the cloud collaboration side of things, so pretty much kind of data management in the cloud with the platform. And then I'll kind of summarise the two of them a little bit and talk kind of generally in regards to data management, which might seem like something people maybe aren't that interested in. You think, oh, that's IT that deals with it, but at the end of the day, it affects everyone who's making CAD models or pretty much any files in general. But we'll start with the kind of PDM now. What I'm going to play is if any's attended our launch event 3 years ago, which was actually the one in person here. One of my colleagues, Grant, that's hiding up the back, put together this nice little video. He's waving in the background. Some of you may not be able to see him in the cameras. But yeah, he's put this wee video together to give you a wee kind of silly example of what PDM is. So I'll let that play out now. So just something a wee bit silly was put together a few years ago, but I thought it was worth showing you guys. Probably some of you haven't seen it before. Hopefully if you are using a vault yourself, you don't get into that situation quite like that one. But yeah, we'll move on to what's actually new in regards to PDM in this side. Now, there's quite a lot that's changed in PDM. You know, obviously some of the stuff is in PDM standard and professional. There's obviously a few things that will be kind of specific to PDM professional only, and I'll kind of mention when that is the case a little bit as we go through things in there, but I'll recap some of these after it, but we'll get into a little kind of demonstration now to begin with. So SOLIDWORKS PDM professional at least has long set the standard for an on-premise data management solution. And with the 2023 release, it's once again raised the bar for usability, performance and security. Access to complete and accurate data is critical to getting any design work done when released. For 2023, static text on the data card can now be copy and pasted into any field, reducing potential typos and errors. Property field data now supports custom tooltips, so it can make it easier to find and fill in the appropriate information when we just hover over them, and we can edit that in the admin side of things. Administrators can also include user information such as variables for both transitions and revision comments, providing improved design history. And for greater clarity, the Get Now dialog is now included when you're looking at the history, so you can see when people have done the get command. Automated workflow notifications, when you come to move things through the workflow, have long been kind of predetermined, the notifications. You couldn't really customize them. But now in 2023, in PDM Professional, you now have access to the full HTML notification editor, allowing you to customize the content that's displayed in any of those notifications. And you can also include images and stuff like that as well. And obviously you can link that into your email notifications as well if that's something you've got set up. Creating and consuming design deliverables is crucial for working with others, and customers licensed with SolidWorks AMBD can now use a convert task in PDM to create step 242 files, further enabling some of the MBD capabilities linked in with PDM. For eDrawings users, Windows Explorer now supports previews and allow you to make easily visualize other file types as well. You can also now look at the admin tool in terms of having it automatically log you in with a predetermined login, usually more for your PDM admin users specifically. And if you do have any tasks set up inside the PDM vault, whether that's PDM Standard or Professional, you can add the task host configuration in steps. And when we're looking at controlling the users, you can refuse the login of multiple users at the same time, rather than previously edit them kind of one by one, or controlling an entire group inside there. When permissions are set in a group by group basis, we can now actually click the little group icon and find out what group has those permissions been given from inside there. Finally, performance and security have been significantly enhanced in PDM 2023. Common archive server activities like adding files, getting files, transitioning files will now see significant performance improvements, particularly with high latency environments. Useful obviously if you've got don't have replication, you're using multiple offices, and you can also log whenever the get command is used as well. You'll also find that in regards to security, to increase the security and protect a little bit of the IP you've got, all traffic between the client computers and the archive server is now encrypted as information has been sent between the client and the server inside there. So streamlined usability, improved communication and increased security. That's just some of the enhancements in PDM 2023. And obviously we've got a couple of other stuff in there. So obviously if you're using the preview, you've got Microsoft Edge support with the HTML5 data. You can restore any deleted users. So if you've deleted the user, you can easily restore them because they'll generally still be stored inside the kind of SQL side of things and some other stuff inside there. In regards to the performance that I mentioned, it was increased. This has got two little data sets. Obviously the first data set's a bit larger, particularly in file size, over 1.5 gigs. Second is a little bit more what people might have, kind of just shy of 100 files. And then we've got in the kind of second column some of the times for PDM 2022 and then 2023. These times are in seconds, but kind of examples with particularly high latency and complexity in the file size. So we can see obviously the time for these, well, this adding files, changing the state or using the get command to get a previous version. Those times have been improved in there. Depending on obviously what that operation is you're doing, in some cases it's kind of 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 times quicker. But in cases even just displaying the little pop-ups that took some time, they're roughly about 7 times quicker it should be when you've got high latency. So that's where it's about 200 milliseconds in this case. Obviously the higher latency, even better the improvement is if you've got multiple offices around the world. It used to be that only the kind of what I would typically call the super admin in PDM could see files that are in kind of private states. Now you can change a permission and the search also display the kind of private files, so files that haven't actually been checked into PDM yet. You can see that they actually exist, so you know somebody's actually doing a bit of work. Obviously you won't actually check them out and edit them until they've done the initial check-in. You can also, if you're adding company logos to your data cards, you can also add additional image types. So you've got kind of GIF, JPEG, PNG and TIFF inside there. Previously you were limited to just 1 or 2 options inside there. For those of us that use an Active Directory, maybe for kind of Windows logins, you can control some additional mapping. And you can also, with the mapping, choose when you want to do that. So you can have it kind of on and off. You'll see that in a second. And you can right-click at a user if you're using the logins with the Active Directory to update that information. Maybe if a username is changed or anything like that, you can have that obviously be changed and reflected inside the PDM. In the data card, you could also add in what's referred to as control logic. Previously, if you were looking at the data card, there'd be pretty much no way of knowing if you've got control logic added. You pretty much just need to click it, go to your kind of tools and open the control logic window, and then just see if anything's there. Now you'll get a little icon appear. In this case, we've got control logic for the project name and project number. That's what that wee icon is representing. And we've also had some permissions that have been kind of split out to give us more control, particularly when we're sharing files and folders inside there. So this is under the state permissions inside there. For those of us with PDM Professional, if you've set up the Web 2 to obviously access that on your kind of phone or tablet or that out and about when you're not in the office, there's been some localization improvements for other languages inside there. Coming with SP1, so probably around 2 or 3 months time from now, there'll be some enhancements to that Active Directory even further, where you can choose to kind of manually sync things or potentially set up some automation so it kind of actively syncs at particular times, and you can choose obviously what it syncs, whether it's adding users, just removing users, updating information and stuff like that. So that's going to be with SP1. And then another enhancement or change with SP1 is obviously regarding the private state. So any new folder permissions that are enabled, you'll be able to control them and change them a little bit further. So there's more permissions in there. So that was some of the enhancements to PDM. Now, the next section would normally be manage, based on who has attended in person and who's registered online. As far as I'm aware, don't believe anyone's using manage. So I will kind of skip over that section just for a bit of time's sake if no one's using it. If I'm wrong and somebody is using manage, or you want to know what's new, or maybe you've never even heard of manage and you want to know what it is, by all means do get in touch with us afterwards, and we can either explain what that is or show you what's changed and new in that if that's something you're interested in. But what I'll do instead is move on to the cloud collaboration section, which is pretty much going to be like the kind of alternative to PDM if you're wanting it more in the clouds. So whereas PDM Standard Professional is more your on-premise solution, you've got a server in your office. Obviously you've got the platform, you can have cloud collaboration in the cloud, and you don't really need any server, that setting. So there's been a lot of enhancements to that, and then there's enhancements to that as well every kind of 2 or 3 months as well. Where SolidWorks has normally what's referred to as service packs. The platform generally has them as kind of FD, functional delivery updates as well, so they're always improving. These are some of the ones that have changed with 2023, which again just came out at the weekend. So if you are using the platform, that's pretty much already updated and you've already got these enhancements maybe without even noticing. We'll go through a little kind of demonstration of some of those enhancements. So maybe you've been considering a solution to manage your SolidWorks data for years, but it's maybe felt a little bit daunting. You've got hardware investments, which potentially be expensive. Implementations could be resource intensive. And in the end, do you really have time to set up a data management system? So in this case, we're going to see how Eric and his team can potentially overcome those barriers with the collaborative designer for SolidWorks role on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. With the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, there's minimum configuration, so pretty much within minutes, Eric's able to begin securely saving his data to the cloud directly from inside SOLIDWORKS. We can optionally use bookmarks to provide a familiar way to organise our structure and data. So potentially can have a mimicking our Windows Explorer's folders if we want. And with built-in lifecycle management, you can control the design's access privileges simply by updating the status of a file, potentially similar to a workflow in PDM, without purchasing a single server. So now Eric's team have access to designs anywhere in the world in any browser. Changing over to a different user, in this case Pete. He's in the product management and he's maybe not a SOLIDWORKS user. So when he's on site with a supplier to get a preview, to review the product structure, he has direct access to Eric's design that he's just uploaded, and with the help of potentially some tags, he can quickly filter and visualise the parts that have been made and those that are going to be purchased. So we could filter for those. When Pete's supplier provides some feedback, you can make those markups in there, so we can highlight them, add some notes as well. So then obviously our engineers would then know what changes have been made. We could potentially use the collaborative tasks and assign that task to Eric, the engineer, and give him that task to set off, potentially setting how severe the priority of that, and also potentially setting deadlines, adding in any referenced images or notes, and also linking to the actual files themselves. So back in the office to Eric, he's able to access Pete's task right from inside SOLIDWORKS, get a notification for that, and he can update the status and then open up that assembly simply by dragging and dropping that into SOLIDWORKS. The assembly is then brought local to his machine, ensuring that there's optimal performance. Opening up the markup, you can see any of the notes that have been made, and then he can then know which files to maybe create a new revision of and start making those changes. We can add in a revision comment, and we can see then that the revisions obviously went from revision A to B. That's just because we've got an alpha revision scheme in this case, but it could be numerical or something different if we wanted to. With the help of the integrated search, we can find just the right piece of hardware to potentially finish this task, and with the changes made, and it can update the release status of the design, and we can finalise that task and pretty much tell our boss that the task is done. So with the collaborative designer for SOLIDWORKS, managing and collaborating on your SOLIDWORKS data has never been more accessible, and as your needs grow, the 3DEXPERIENCE platform will work and continue to overcome barriers with connected change management, product management, release management. So what barriers to design collaboration will this help you overcome next? So that's just a little bit about the kind of cloud collaboration inside there. Now, obviously that was a little bit about the two different data management systems that are kind of on offer, so to speak. Now, before moving on to simulation, which is technically the next topic in there, I want to kind of just raise, I guess, the importance of backups, which I say this to people, and the reason I've added this section in here is any training course I teach from the starting point of Essentials, I drive in the importance of people saving data regularly, and everyone always goes, yeah, it's important, I know, and don't really care. They go, it's not for me to worry about. But we do get a lot of people phoning us in, emailing us going, I've lost files, I don't have data management, files gone corrupt, I've lost a week's worth of data, and it's like, I've not saved the file in 3 days, what can you do? Well, you need to have some sort of backup strategy in there. So that's what this wee section, I'm just going to kind of give you some options, and then obviously it's for you guys to then pick also the option that's right for you. Hopefully you're not going to pick one of the first couple of options that I'll explain. The reason I'm saying this is because at the end of the day, it's your time that can potentially be wasted if you lose files go corrupt, and pretty much at the end of the day, your time is money. Your boss doesn't want you redesigning the same work 3 times, you don't want to be designing the same model 3 times in a row or anything like that. So obviously the problems with bad data management, apart from recreating it, is we've got 2 images that kind of show the challenges of CAD inside here. So this was a little survey that was done. People that some of the challenges that can be faced with CAD. So obviously a lot of people agree it can be hard or slow to find the particular data you've got, conflicting and overriding information and so on. And then a study that was actually done in America, so that's why it's in dollars, particularly with large companies. Pretty much they averaged it out to include obviously your customers and suppliers. They estimate out to every megabyte of data that's lost could be worth up to $10,000, the big companies. So obviously you guys may not be losing that much money per megabyte, but the point is still true that you'll be losing money at the end of the day. Now, obviously we've got a few different options for data management. Now, obviously the simplest option is you have literally no data management. That's probably what you might do with your own personal files at home. We've then got an option of manual data management. We can use a server, a network drive potentially. It's quite common with a lot of our customers still. You might think of maybe using Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, something of that nature. Then obviously got Solid's PDM, and then we've obviously got the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. Now I've put a little table together of some information, and I'll go through each of these kind of 6 options in a wee bit more detail, but it's just to kind of tell you kind of how kind of common or rare is it's kind of file corruption, file naming, or kind of generating part numbers and all of that, the options from in there, how easy is it to update references, that sort of idea. So these are each of these kind of 5 columns are 5 kind of important things when it comes to data management. But going through them kind of fairly quickly, and hopefully you'll see that one of the last 2 options is going to be the optimal solution. Obviously, if you have no data management, you'll literally just save your file to maybe your desktop, and that's your job done. But in that situation, if a file was corrupt, you're completely out of luck. There's not going to be any way of recovering that at all or anything, so you will need to recreate that file. You might then decide to kind of manually create backups yourself. So you'll create your normal file, go file, save it to maybe your desktop, my documents, folder of your choice, and then maybe the next day you'll just do a save as. This is quite common. You see with kind of students, and you'll probably do that yourself personally. You'll put -2, -3 at the end, something of that nature, and that can be okay in terms of you've got a bit of a backup that you could maybe restore to, but updating and managing in that way is not great, particularly when it comes to solid file references, trying to update them and all that's going to be a nightmare. And then again, if your hard drive fails, all those files are gone. You're never going to get them back. So some people then think, well, we'll have IT create a wee kind of network shared folder, and we'll just stick everything on there. So when you go to save, you'll just pick your F drive, your G drive, H, whatever the letter may be, and save it in there. So that way you've got a copy in the server, which can be a wee bit more secure and is generally backed up. But then we come into some other issues. It's good that there's a backup on the server, usually, and depending how you've done the file names, you might be able to revert to a previous version, potentially. But if you're particularly opening up the files across a network drive, that's when people have emailed us to say my file's gone corrupt. That's usually the most common reason, because you've just browsed to the H drive, double click to open it, and went away in editing. That's usually where files go corrupt. Updating any of the kind of file references can be very tricky that way. Obviously, if it's in the network drive, if that server's down, you're not going to have access to your files. And then obviously, if people working from home, particularly the last couple of years, if you're just using a VPN, if you've got a large assembly, thousands of components, it can often be pretty slow to open up. So it's better than nothing, but maybe not the best solution. Some people then think, well, okay, maybe we'll try Google Drive or Dropbox, OneDrive, something of that nature. And that can be okay in terms of you can have a kind of synced folder on your machine. You think, well, Microsoft will deal with the backups, or Google, or whoever like that. And that's decent in terms of you've got an off-site backup, at least, so you're not resorting to just one place where the files are saved. And sometimes you can revert to earlier versions, depending on which solution it is you're using. But then we start to come into other issues with, have we actually got our files synced up? Is the files that Scott saved yesterday, have they actually been synced up to OneDrive, and then have I got them downloaded? If you're going to try and use something like this with SolidWorks or most CAD solutions, updating file references with OneDrive is, if you've ever tried it, it can be a bit of a nightmare to do it. And again, you can end up with files going corrupt and people trying to edit one file and William's updating one file and I try and open it, we're creating conflicts, sort of idea. So again, it's not particularly great. So this would usually you want to have what I'm going to say is a proper data management solution. Now that could be SolidWorks PDM, could be the platformer. Technically there is other options out there, but obviously for working with SolidWorks, one of these two is usually your best option. So that's where obviously SolidWorks PDM, whether it's PDM Standard or PDM Professional. Remember, if you have SolidWorks Professional or SolidWorks Premium, you do have PDM licenses that come with that. So pretty much there could potentially be literally no cost in setting up PDM Standard. And it doesn't matter how big or small your company is, it's still good to have that in place. And obviously with PDM, you've got the advantages of things like having a workflow, so you can say where is the file in development, is it in initial creation, wait for approval and all that sort of stuff. And you can have your revision control, alphanumerical, if your versions, access control, all of that sort of thing. So there's a lot of positives, there's just a couple of them. The only technical negatives, just being honest sort of idea, is you do obviously potentially need to know how to use PDM. Well, PDM's fairly easy to learn, but you do require a server. That's usually the one downside sometimes people find of PDM. So then the last option is pretty much the cloud alternative, the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. Again, you've got pretty much a lot of the same positives as SolidWorks PDM, but there is some other positives in terms of you can start to link that into the cloud modelling. So X-Shape and X-Design that we spoke about earlier. You can link that into obviously render, and you can do like Simolia. Scott will mention that a wee bit's time. And you've got other kind of team collaboration through things like your 3D swim and tasks, all that sort of stuff. So again, a lot of positives there. The only slight negative maybe is a wee bit of learning how to use it. That's sort of there. But again, the platform's fairly easy to learn if I'm being honest. So again, really, what solution you use is obviously what works best for your individual company. Hopefully you're not going to pick one of the first two options. Hopefully it'll be one of the bottom last two that I mentioned, so it's PDM or the platform. Obviously if you're doing things like the platform, the backups are kind of managed for you. If you are doing backups manually, also make sure you're testing the backups. There's no point thinking, oh, IT are backing it up, and then a year down the line you get in a situation, something happens and you need to phone IT and it turns out they're not actually doing a backup, which has happened, unfortunately. Or that they think the backup's working, but maybe the backups are corrupt or something. So make sure you've definitely got backups in place. And that's why I just stress that enough. People always probably think, you might be sitting there yourself going, I know. But there's a lot of customers that aren't backing up their data properly. So that's why I just wanted to drive that home in there. But that's enough from me. You might be getting fed up of data management from there. So from that, I'll pass over to Scott with hopefully some stuff that's maybe a bit more exciting with simulation.
Oh, I don't know about that. You have to listen to me for a wee while now as well, I'm afraid. I'm glad you're here for the data management side of things though, Craig. I couldn't sit and talk about that for that length of time, I don't think. But yeah, we'll look at some simulation now. So starting off with the SolidWorks simulation side of things, you can see some of the enhancements that we've got there. But we're just going to dive straight in and we'll take a look at these. So we've got this sewing machine model, which has got dozens of moving parts that all need to work perfectly together to get some good results and ensure reliability. So if we have a look at the new enhancements to SolidWorks Simulation 2023, get some insight into some of these complex mechanical systems. So when we zoom in on the presser foot assembly, we see that this handle uses a cam and follower design to raise the foot away from the fabric. The follower is held in place by a strong spring that holds the fabric down while sewing. We want to make sure that the spring is strong enough to keep enough pressure on the fabric, but not so strong, making it difficult to raise the lever. So we're going to need to test multiple spring stiffnesses until we get it right. Since there's a sliding contact in here, we could see some long solve times when we run the analysis, but in Simulation 2023, there's a new adjustment for contact penalty stiffness, which should just appear on screen in a wee second there. There we go. So by moving this slider all the way over to the left-hand side, we can trade out some of the contact pressure accuracy for faster solve time. And this is great for testing complicated assemblies or running multiple iterations when we're searching for an optimized design. In this head-to-head comparison here, where the contact penalty stiffness is set to its lowest value on the left, on the right-hand side there, we can see that the simulation runs significantly faster, almost twice as quick. Now with the needle bar assembly, we want to ensure the needle clamp is strong enough to take on the repetitive forces from the needle. To simplify this assembly, we'll remove these set screws from the analysis. New in Simulation 2023, we have more flexibility when creating bonded contacts between non-touching faces at extreme angles to each other, like the threaded holes for these set screws and the flat cutout on the needle bar. The upper shaft assembly has several plastic injection moulded parts with complex geometry, which could require some advanced meshing and mesh interrogation. New in the Command Manager is the Diagnostic Tools flyout menu, which provides quick access to important tools like mesh quality diagnostics. We can quickly detect some poor quality elements that will require some mesh refinement to ensure accurate results here. For SOLIDWORKS Simulation Professional users, the Under Constrained Bodies command has been greatly improved. Resolver now performs a singular value decomposition, which is much faster than previous versions. Also see a far more realistic feedback of complex under-constrained systems, like we have here with this animation of the thread take-up mechanism. And for Sim Premium users, we saw last time out that we had the linkage rod connector introduced as an enhancement, but that's now been made available for non-linear static and dynamic studies as well. It'll work perfect here to help simplify the analysis and speed up run times. Changing the end conditions, offsetting the link, and dimensioning the rod will replicate its exact function in the analysis. So SOLIDWORKS 2023 will speed up the analysis process with new enhancements for every designer. Contact problems will run faster than ever. Bonded contacts between non-touching faces are more flexible to use. The enhancements to Simulation Professional and Premium allow for quick investigation of boundary conditions and powerful simplification tools to help get your job done fast. So we just have a quick summary of some of those points there. So we saw the penalty stiffness control for contacts, which will allow us to set the slider to a lower value and speed up the solution time. There's been some improvements to the bonding interactions for non-touching faces that aren't facing each other and have no projection area between them. We now have the diagnostic flyout menu in the Command Manager, making that area a little bit easier to access things like our mesh quality diagnostics. Pro and Premium users will see some enhancements to the Under Constrained Bodies tool, which will really speed that up and give us some nice visualization of the bodies. And Premium users can take advantage of the linkage rod connector in their non-linear static and dynamic studies as well. So that was SOLIDWORKS simulation. From there we'll move on to some advanced simulation where we'll take a look at what we can do on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform as well. And again, we'll just get some of these points there. I'll just prepare myself for another rerun here. So
connecting SOLIDWORKS to advanced simulations just got a lot easier.
Sorry, shouldn't have had sound up. I'll be back. Thanks. Yeah, so validating product performance, reliability and safety doesn't have to wait until a physical prototype. The simulation rules of 3DEXPERIENCE work gives you world-class multi-physics analysis tools. So I think it may be... Sorry, I need to double check what point I'm at here. Yeah, I'm good now. So some of the sewing machine components are defined with custom materials here. In fact, sorry, I've started the wrong bit again. Sorry, guys. Let me just double check I'm at the right spot. That wee bit threw me off there, sorry. I'm good now. I'm good now. I think, yes. So, yeah, so we're back with Adam here. Sorry about that, guys. And he's going to import an existing simulation study into 3DEXPERIENCE here. So while a linear static analysis in SOLIDWORKS simulation provides good insight into the structural integrity, it needs more capabilities provided by the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. And some of the materials have been defined in SOLIDWORKS, like I said, but we also need to create these in 3DEXPERIENCE. To automate this task, is custom SOLIDWORKS material library can be imported into 3DEXPERIENCE there. This eliminates the need for him to go and kind of run through that time-consuming and error-prone task of creating the materials again. So it's made nice and easy for him. As you can see there, it's just getting imported back in. So in these new material objects, the SOLIDWORKS simulation material properties are maintained and converted to Abacus multi-physics properties, and these are leveraged to solve for additional real-world phenomena. For the case of the inevitable needle break, he only needs to add damage properties in order to get his results. Make sure I'm at the right point here. Yeah, sorry guys, I've thrown myself off again at the start there. Yeah, so I know where I should be. Sorry. Just try to find the right one. Sorry. Just need to find the right one. Yeah, sorry guys. I'm good now though. We can carry on here. But sorry, I'm just getting a wee bit thrown off with some of the bits of the video here. But in this study here, Adam's got goals of minimising mass and stress, and the best design alternative can be identified for him in 3DEXPERIENCE. So with a couple of clicks, he generates the alternative design, so he can perform additional analyses and update the SOLIDWORKS assembly with the optimal part model. To evaluate how long the link will last, Adam creates a durability analysis case and defines the fatigue loading. The results identify where and when the link will fail first, but you can increase the life without changing the geometry. He modifies the surface finish in the weak parts only, which minimises the amount of manufacturing needed to create a long-lasting part. All of Adam's work is managed and automatically backed up on 3DEXPERIENCE. He also doesn't need to spend time creating reports of his simulations, since all the data is on the platform. The details can be easily viewed in 3D in a web browser. Comments, notes and changes can be shared with other users in the same cloud-based environment, streamlining the communication process between the team. And this product development and validation doesn't stop at structural analysis. You can work with fluids, plastics, electromagnetics and motion studies as well. So there we saw some of the powerful simulation capabilities provided by Simulia on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, where we can easily import any work we've done in SOLIDWORKS and make use of things like Abacus's multi-physics properties, explicit dynamics technology and durability studies, all the while freeing up our resources by running it in the cloud. The simulation solutions provided by Simulia cover structures, fluids, plastics, electromagnetics and kinematics. And this is brought to you by, like I said, the SOLIDWORKS sister brand Simulia, known for its proven accuracy and scalability with Abacus and FE-Safe. This includes robust general contact, simplifying your simulation setup process, advanced material models, multi-physics and automated and advanced meshing technologies. And now just to cap off the simulation section, we'll take a quick look at FlowSim. Sorry about that again guys, I'm getting a wee bit muddled up with certain bits of my video there, but thankfully this full simulation section doesn't actually have a video, so I won't see that again. So in here we've got some really nice improvements, such as the ability to mesh what we would call a dirty model 5 to 15 times faster without any adjustments or peeling of the model, using the mesh Boolean operation there. We now have a solar radiation model with a turbidity factor, allowing us to take the optical thickness of the atmosphere into account. This considers properties such as absorption by water vapour and absorption and scattering caused by aerosol particles relative to a dry, clean atmosphere. For some of our plots, we can now display for a specific solid material or fluid region. With our fans, we can now set the tangential and radial velocity dependencies on flow rate as a property in the engineering database, which fully define the swirling flow of the fan. The accuracy of the heat exchange between fluids and solids has been increased by making the matrix dependent on density and velocity. Our projects and goals can now be sorted alphabetically or chronologically in the analysis tree. We can also now export results for a specified time range in the Transient Explorer mode, and down the bottom there we can also add some custom visualization parameters here as well. We've got some new goals added, such as the total energy balance, heat generation rates and mass of solid parameters, and the radial and axial velocity goals can also now be specified. And finally, the solver monitor has been improved, so it now takes much less time to complete the mesher and solver operations. So that's everything on the simulation front, and I'll pass you back to Craig now. He's going to take a look at some of the other SOLIDWORKS products.
All right, thanks there, Scott. So yeah, we're going to have a look at SOLIDWORKS inspection, which again kind of, I would say, comes in two flavours. so to speak. So obviously we've got the standalone application, which is its own application. Then obviously we've got the inspection add-in that's inside SolidWorks. So there's going to be some improvements to both of those in there. So we'll look at them. So we'll go through them in a preview in a second, but let's go through a little demonstration. So SolidWorks inspection has always been sought to dramatically reduce the amount of time required to create first article inspection documentation. With Inspection 2023, the ethos to up the level of performance, speed, control and consistency is there. For 2023, and the standalone inspection gets a clean new look with a whole new user interface with updated icons to make it more clear and easy to identify what you're after. Current and new standalone users alike will be thrilled to discover that the all-new auto balloon capability now extends to file formats such as PDF files. The previously extracted Smart Extract tool has been replaced with the new Auto Extract command, and that's a one-stop shop for all of your auto ballooning needs, and that's for both 2D and 3D files. This provides an enormous jumpstart to the process and will save huge amounts of time of setting up your inspection reports for those PDF files. Inspection brings added intelligence to cases where manual ballooning is used as well. The manual extract now identifies other characteristics as well. When working with the SolidWorks inspection add-in instead, inspection setup can now be fine-tuned with a set of criteria. Sequences can now be created and named for future use. These sequences set up custom starting points and can be applied for a variety of purposes. Auto extract can now be limited by sheet, as well as an added level of control. By default, all sheets will be selected, but you can obviously untick a particular sheet if you're wanting to. You can also take advantage of the power of automated ballooning in more situations than ever before, with added control over these sheets and sequences. Cleanup and reorganization has been enhanced as well. The characteristic tree at the top left here now provides a pane where balloon numbering can be viewed and modified on a sheet-by-sheet basis, or as a single drawn view. Reordering all balloons at once is now easy as just a drag and drop to reorder as required. Likewise, reordering drawn views results in the same effect of things being updated. In the characteristic table, balloons can be reordered by view or manually dragged. Along with the ability to fine-tune these balloons on a sheet-by-sheet basis, we can also export multiple sheets or just a single sheet if we want. In this case, we're just going to tick both of them, so we could as well tick all. And we can also export these to Excel documents as well. SolidWorks inspection is more consistent, more intelligent, and more efficient than ever before. So you can take advantage of some of these enhancements with the new power, retain the control over your model, and get your inspection documents done faster with Inspection 2023. So that's just some enhancements to both standalone application, which we're looking at first, as well as the add-in inside SolidWorks. So trying to make all the kind of extraction of the information in the balloons a little bit more automated, so you don't have to go through and manually adding them and creating them one by one. But if you did manually change things, like reordering, that's obviously going to be things that are a bit quicker, and we can do things more on a sheet-by-sheet basis rather than previously affecting all the sheets at the same time. You will be stuck with me for one last section on Composer. Quite a short section, not too many people using Composer. But what we can look at for the Composer side of things is we can look to create what's referred to as view collections. So it's almost like creating many little groups of your different views. So we can see we've got a couple of collections on the right. So we've got kind of standard views, one for kind of dimensions. We've got more dimensions shown, and then we've got little callouts one at the bottom. And then if you activate a collection, so right clicking, that will select that collection as a new default for any other views that you're going to be creating. Also, if you're in Composer and you actually need to access any help, previously if you went to the help documentation at the top right corner, it would open up the kind of built-in online help, which can be good, but maybe isn't updated as regularly as the web help. So you can now change the default to using the web help, so pretty much as long as you've got an internet connection, that will open up and you can use that instead. Again, you can always access the web help from a web browser if you need to, but that's pretty much for Composer. Unfortunately, not a whole lot of changes for Composer in this particular one. But what I'll do is I'll pass you over to William. I forgot your name there. Sorry, to go over electrical.
Thank you, Craig. We'll now be moving on to SolidWorks Electrical. So just to briefly introduce what's new in 2023, we will be seeing improvements in deleting components, some new icons in the electrical manager tree, as well as enhancements to the UI to make associating components easier. So let's take a look. SolidWorks Electrical 2023 introduces new features so you can more accurately design and document your wiring, cabling and harnessing projects. In this frozen beverage machine, we need to complete the power and switch circuit for a new mixing motor. Then route everything and generate final PDF reports. A single component, like this motor here, can exist in multiple single line and multi-line schematics, as well as in 3D models. In 2023, deleting components is enabled, giving you a report of the impact and the option to remove the component from all drawings and 3D associations in one click. Let's make some room for a new motor. Valuable information is stored in this manufacturer part, which can also be valuable in 3D. In 2023, all component properties will propagate to the associated 3D model. Properties like power and speed will definitely be useful on the mechanical drawing. And custom property compatibility now extends to weight, which will override the mass properties in 3D. This gives you more accurate ability to measure weight and balance. You can also create on-the-fly dynamic connection labels, which will override the which are based on configurations and provide just the information and number of rows needed. Since some customers hardwired a frozen drink machine, we stopped including the power plug, instead providing a length of pigtail. In 2023, you can define open-ended wires for routes, capturing situations like these where the bare wire is still important to document. The project deliverables include a wireless with lengths. This is where electrical 3D is invaluable. In 2023, new quick filter buttons let you fly through the electrical manager tree. One click to expand and see all components, another to hide or show what's already associated in this assembly or others. With new component icons, you can instantly differentiate the electrical association and 3D model states. For example, if it's associated to a part or assembly, if it's associated in another assembly, if it's hidden or suppressed, etc. In 2023, you can now associate multiple components in one command. The new associate interface is redesigned for enhanced usability, which means much fewer clicks to define your components in 3D and start routing. In many jobs, the project reports become the final deliverable. Tables like wire list and manufacturer bills of materials can easily be generated, and now in 2023 they can be copy and pasted and stay associative. In this case, a bill of materials can be added to this one sheet drawing, and manual updating is a task of the past. Electrical 2023 includes support for inserting a wide variety of newer image formats. For example, PNG, JPEG, and TIFF are now supported. This eliminates the need to first convert an image to bitmap. With the project complete, many times you want to print everything to a PDF file. Frequently, reports are a mixture of landscape and portrait sheet orientations like this one. The new automatic orientation option is a time saver when you want your PDF to be generated as you intended. SolidWorks Electrical 2023 brings you expanded capabilities to manage components and share information between 2D and 3D, along with more flexibility in documenting your schematics. So a lot of great enhancements and new features you've just seen there, which will be available in 2023. For example, we have dynamic connection labels, so you can now enable labels for electrical connectors that dynamically adjust for the number of circuits or pins in a connector. We can embed a report to any of the electrical drawing types. These include schematics, single line diagrams, and 2D control panel drawings. This provides more complete documentation and eliminates various extra steps. Multilingual attributes have also been added in 2023, where the language can be changed automatically when the language of the document is changed by the user. This attribute can be used for symbols and title blocks. In Electrical 3D, we can bring a full list of properties from schematic over to 3D, including manufacturer's part information and custom properties. The weight defined also overrides the mass properties of the associated 3D part. We have enhancements to the associate feature, such as making multiple selections in one command, displaying connection point information on the screen when you're making a selection, as well as the ability to overwrite prior selections to make bulk updates. In the electrical manage tree, there have been new icons that are added to represent the different states of a component within the electrical project. For example, these icons represent if it's associated to a 3D part or an assembly, etc. There are also enhancements to using Excel automation for schematic design operations. For example, you can set more wire properties, including wire section, insert and connect origin arrows in a circuit macro, and you can also replace a symbol while inserting a macro. So that's what's new for SOLIDWORKS Electrical 2023. I will now pass you over to Scott.
Cheers, William. So yeah, so we'll move on to the integrated manufacturing on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform now, and we'll see what that's capable of and whether or not I'm capable of getting through one of these without totally fumbling it. So there again, we can see some of the different bits and pieces that we're going to look through in this video here. So we'll jump into that just now. So parts are becoming more and more complex and delivery times are getting shorter. When you add the advancements of machine tools, it becomes crucial that the manufacturing process is streamlined. Being able to program parts faster and more accurately allows companies to focus on new jobs and not on manufacturing errors that cost delays. So here we have Sam, or me with my glasses on as it turns out, and he's using Delmia's shop floor programmer, which makes life a whole lot easier for him. Let's look at some of the tools he uses to accelerate programming time and reduce manufacturing errors. So Sam starts with the setup wizard, which is shop floor's machining wizard. Sort of simplifies the tasks of setting up your working environment and with a guided step-by-step workflow. The wizard speeds up setup time by defining machines, post-processors, stock and tooling for any machine in your shop. Defining what machine operations is fast, easy and accurate in shop floor programmer. Utilising automation tools like automatic hole feature recognition. Feature recognition will identify the diameter and depth of each hole on the part and assign the appropriate process. Setting machining areas and boundaries can be a timely task in most CAM systems. Automatic boundaries and process-specific controls help you fine-tune your programs for your specific machines without fear of gouging. Now, accuracy is obviously extremely important here. So for the final surface machining, Sam takes advantage of advanced surface machining to precisely machine the entire surface of the part. Shop floor programmer uses the actual surface geometry to calculate the surface paths, and this eliminates surface faceting and any costly handwork that may follow. Advanced surface finishing can also be used for complex 3D geometry, such as the webbing on the bottom of the part. You can also define the boundaries of all operations, like this time-intensive machining process, by using limiting contours. The selection tool makes it easy to define this area, using both existing geometry as well as automatically defined geometry. Now, Sam can review the entire machining process at any time by running a full machine simulation. Here you can look for any potential problems and clearly see the different types of operations separated by specific colours. Toolpath simulation also shows leftover stock or immediate stock, which makes cleanup fast and easy. The graphic representation of the toolpath laid over the part gives you a clear view of each operation and each movement of the tool. So once Sam's happy with his results and he's been able to watch all these simulations and make sure everything's going the way that he wants, he can just save out the NC code and send it off to his machine. And he knows the code's right because shop floor programmer supplied him with post-processors specific to the machines in his shop. Once the job is running, Sam has constant visibility through the 3DEXPERIENCE program platform. He also knows that having all his data in one place helps his team communicate any changes as they come up. Delmia Shop Floor Programmer gives users the ability to program any machine in their shop quickly, easily and accurately, cut timeframes and result in more accurate parts and faster time to market. So again, we just have a quick summary of some of those points in the integrated manufacturing section, such as the automatic hole recognition and boundaries, the advanced surface finish, and of course the full machine simulation. And I'll pass you back to Craig now. He's going to finish off our afternoon session.
All right, yep, so there's not really a section per se for this in terms of the kind of overview, because it's not really linked to a particular section of SOLIDWORKS, but it's just going to be a handful of kind of additional topics that we're going to cover. So I'm going to go through a quick little preview of what DriveWorks is, in case that's of interest to some of you. I'm then going to talk about things that can try and kind of help you day to day in terms of what SOLIDWORKS RX tool is, a wee bit about our kind of support portal. Some of you might be aware from that, from phoning, emailing in, that sort of idea. A little bit about license options that are available with 2023. Not too much change there, but I'll go through them. A little bit about our training courses and the SOLIDWORKS exams. And then I'll kind of finish this little additional topic section off a bit about installing 2023, both SOLIDWORKS, PDM and other products. In regards to kind of any system requirements, things you might want to watch out for, make sure your machine's compatible, all of that sort of stuff. Now, DriveWorks is available in 3 options. You've got DriveWorks Express, Solo and Professional. With the Express line, that is something you'll have access to already. In SOLIDWORKS, if you go to like your Evaluate tab at the top, you'll probably see you've got like Sim Express, Flow Express, DriveWorks Express is another one in there. And the whole purpose of DriveWorks is to try and make it a bit easier to create the same but different products. Sounds a bit odd to say the same but different, but it's things that are going to be similar but just have some slight variation. So give you, for example, different sizes of tables, different sizes of cupboards. You can choose the size. It will then work out how many kind of doors you should have, how many legs, all that sort of stuff. So that's the kind of purpose of DriveWorks, to try and capture, reuse some of your models, but then add in design rules and logic. It's not too dissimilar to if you're doing things like linear patterns, but rather than just say pattern 10 of them, 5 apart, you put a kind of end condition and it works out how many can fit in, that sort of idea. So you build up that sort of control logic. You can obviously link that into then your drawings, so it can potentially automate creating the drawings side of things. And if you wanted to take things all the way to the top level, DriveWorks Pro, you can even have the customer go to your website, put in the information they want, and quite literally your parts, your assemblies, and your drawings are all kind of automatically created. So it's kind of integrated with other systems. I'm just going to go through talking a little small demo about kind of DriveWorks Solo. It's one of the kind of starting points inside here, and this is going to be for a little kind of cupboard example. So with DriveWorks Express and Solo, it'll appear on the right hand side, similar to a lot of SOLIDWORKS add-ins, and then I can put in some kind of key information. So kind of what is the height of this cabinet I want, what is maybe the width, the depth. Maybe I've set up a kind of style. So that's kind of built tracking 3 different configurations I've got for the style, and I'll see a little preview appear on the right. You can have different tabs be added in as well for other potential options. And pretty much what I'm going to be doing is kind of hitting my finishing. You'll see you kind of saw it kind of flash between different windows. And pretty much what it's doing is it's going to take your one part and one assembly and one drawing that you've created and pretty much change all the appropriate views based on obviously the options you've got. And obviously using the control logic you've set up, it'll work out kind of how many shelves should there be, if there's enough sort of idea. Similar to what you could do in SOLIDWORKS manually, but obviously trying to kind of automate that. And you can obviously link that into saving your files to PDM, all of that sort of idea. And then it'll save them, and I could literally go straight back in. Maybe I've answered another phone call to a customer that's phoned in. They've given me some new sizes, maybe told me they want a different type of wood, for example. And obviously if you're using kind of the costing side of things, it can even give you what obviously the final costs of all of that would be inside there. Obviously this is just split up the window into 4 sections, but we'll just do these one at a time. It would go through in there. Obviously DriveWorks Express, you've already got that kind of free. There is trials and stuff available with DriveWorks Solo if that's something you're interested in there, but it's just something that people usually a lot of time will create similar stuff and they'll just create new configurations. Maybe they'll do save as, but that could be an option that's available. If you do want a wee bit more info on that, by all means do just grab one of us during the next break, or give us a wee call or something like that tomorrow, next week or whatever, if you want a wee bit more info about DriveWorks. But it's just really trying to save you time if you're creating very similar models going through there. Hopefully most of you guys will know if you've got kind of paying for subscription support, all that. If you do ever have any issues or questions, by all means you can phone, email us in, that sort of idea. If you are phoning, emailing in, obviously you can reply when you get your email in there, but you can also go to our support website, the third little bullet point in there, and you'll get a kind of history of the kind of chat, so to speak, going back and forward. You can add files and all of that in there. Some of these people don't even realise they've got support, or they might be like, oh, this is a silly question, I don't want to ask it. By all means you can phone in. It's probably quicker. Phone is for 2 seconds, I can't find X button, and be able to say, oh, it's up in that corner, and that's fix it, rather than you scroll around the YouTube video for half an hour to find where one feature is in there. If you've not been in our website, earlier in the year, our website was updated, have a new look and everything in there for different sections. Just thought I would mention that. Another thing that's worth mentioning is SolidWorks Pack and Go. The only reason I mention this because a lot of people maybe don't even know what it is. If you are wanting to send your files, whether it be to a customer or a client, or if you're maybe sending us a copy of your files, rather than attaching an assembly and a sub-assembly and 15 parts and a drawing, where you're attaching 20, 30, 40, maybe even hundreds of separate files, either in SolidWorks, if you go to kind of file, there'll be a Pack and Go option, or if you're in Windows File Explorer, if you right click a file, you'll get a little SolidWorks option and you should see a Pack and Go. So you can do a Pack and Go without even opening up SolidWorks, and it will gather all the referenced files together. Usually what I'll do just underneath where the files are, where it's currently set now to save to folder, usually I'll save to a zip file. So you literally get one single zip file with all your reference files inside there, and you can literally then send that zip file to someone else, maybe us if you're looking for support on a particular model, and then we've got everything we need to open it. And you can include things like simulation results and decals in there. You can also use this if you're wanting to create a completely new project or copy of files, and you can add prefix and suffixes to your file as well. SolidWorks RX tool. It's usually only something people use when they've got issues, but it can be something that's useful to set up, not set up, but to have a little look at, particularly if you've got like a new machine or something, just to see if your machine kind of is up to spec so far. Just a simple check. One of the important ones is the graphics card and the graphics card driver, making sure that's up to date. Bear in mind, if you do update to SolidWorks 2023, or really any version of SolidWorks, the kind of recommended graphics card driver can update to a slightly newer one. So that is something you might want to maybe talk to your IT about, getting that updated to a supported version. The little blue link at the top will link you to the SolidWorks website, where you can put in what your graphics card is, whether it's like HP, Dell, Lenovo, your manufacturer, and it will tell you the kind of graphics card driver version that you should be using. And obviously you just want to make sure your IT install that particular one. The one that I've highlighted in red when I was talking about backups and everything earlier, a lot of people maybe don't realise you can also set up your own, almost kind of what I call a private backup, and that's just a local backup of files on your machine, either through the backup or recovery. The recovery option is kind of like an autosave, but it will save a copy of your file in a completely separate kind of temp folder. That way, if your SolidWorks crashes, or you've got to plug your power into your laptop and the laptop goes dead, that autosave can be set up so every X minutes, maybe 10, 15, it saves a copy of your file into that folder. And then the backup option is when you hit save, it will put a copy, it'll save it to wherever you're wanting to save, but it will also save a copy into this other folder. Those options are usually off by default, so you always recommend turning them on. And I can tell, at least on this machine that the RX has been taken, it's telling me that the backup and recovery options haven't been set, so it's not been turned on. So if you see that warning next to that option on your machine, you probably want to go to your, open up SolidWorks, system settings, backup recovery, and get both of them turned on. I'd recommend that in every machine, whether you're using PDM, platform or anything, have them turned on. License options haven't really changed for SolidWorks 2023. Obviously, Mike mentioned that when it comes to more the purchasing side of things, you can purchase it in term licenses for pretty much any product, network or not. Again, you've still got the three options pretty much that you already had. You've got your standalone licenses, where a license is activated on one machine, and you can deactivate that from one machine and activate it on another machine. Do that, quite frankly, as many times as you want. I would say, just remember, if you are someone who works from home and works in the office, and you're doing that standalone, make sure you don't forget to deactivate it from home and then come into the office and go, oh, my license is still at home in there. So just make sure you're doing that if you are moving around machines. Obviously, you've got your network license options, where obviously the licenses are all active on a server. And then when you're in the office, if you've got a pool of, say, 10 licenses, first 10 people who open SolidWorks, it opens up. And then when someone closes SolidWorks, it kind of returns that license to the pool in there. And then obviously you've got 3DEXPERIENCE license options. That can be for SolidWorks itself. It doesn't have to be, because I say 3DEXPERIENCE, it's X-Shape, X-Design, and all the other stuff in the cloud. You can get what's referred to as SolidWorks Connected, which is your normal SolidWorks. SolidWorks is still installed on your machine, and you've got all the same normal SolidWorks features and stuff that are available. So you've got those options as well. Again, we've got obviously our different training courses that we do. Some of you have probably been on some of them. I know I've taught some of you guys in the room some of these courses over time. I've broke these down into kind of 3 sections, so to speak, just if anyone's ever interested in, maybe we've got a new start, someone that's just come out of college or something. Usually the starting point's essentials, learning how to create drawings and stuff. And there's even a course that some people might not be aware of, SolidWorks Refresher. SolidWorks Refresher is kind of a combination between assembly, part, essentials and drawings. And it's almost like maybe someone that's maybe used SolidWorks 10, 20 years ago, maybe hasn't used it in ages, and they're just wanting a wee recap of kind of give me some updates on what's changed over the years, and a reminder kind of how to use SolidWorks. And then you've got sort of more advanced courses as you go in there. You've also got SolidWorks exams, so that's something that's completely optional. But the SolidWorks exams, although if you kind of go to SolidWorks exams and you just type in like CSWA into Google, you might be like, oh, there's a price and you've got to pay for it. If you are someone who's on subscription and you've got 5 licenses of SolidWorks, you can get 5 exams pretty much for free every 6 months. It works from kind of January to June and then kind of July to December, kind of splits the year in half. And then you can kind of set them at your own time, sort of idea. So it's obviously handy for people. So rather than you going to a job or anything, a new company, and saying, oh, I've used SolidWorks for 3 years, does 3 years mean once in a blue moon, or does it mean every day, 6 hours, 7 hours a day? If you've got the exams, you can kind of tell people, oh, I'm efficient in X, Y, and Z products, and you've passed the exams, so they can be quite handy. And again, if you've got SolidWorks, you can set these for free. If you fail, worst thing is you can reset them in 30 days' time, sort of idea. But that's something. And if you are wanting to know how to redeem them, by all means, just get in touch with us from there. And then the last wee bit, I'm going to just mention a wee bit the system requirements, so to speak. There's not too much that's changed from 2022. So if you're already on SolidWorks 2022 SP5, probably fine to update. Just the things to note is obviously at the top, Windows 10 / Windows 11. Obviously for people updating, if you're on Windows 11, technically Windows 11 is only supported from SolidWorks 2022 SP2 onwards. So if you're still on 2021, still on SolidWorks 2020, 2019 or earlier, I wouldn't recommend updating to Windows 11 at the moment. You've got obviously then things like the CPU, the RAM, GPU, drive. Generally speaking, that's not changed. I've just left up what the minimum requirements are, and I've put kind of Windows supported because there's not really a minimum recommendation for the CPU. But generally speaking, for base SolidWorks, you're a little bit more interested in the clock speed of the CPU rather than the amount of cores that are in there. And again, for the graphics card, where I've put C supported cards, that's when if you open up the SolidWorks RX tool, it will show you the kind of little blue link that I mentioned at the top about the graphics card. You can also kind of Google SolidWorks system requirements. It'll probably take you to the SolidWorks page. That's where you can put in what kind of machine you're going to buy, whether it's HP, Dell, Lenovo, the model and your card, and it'll tell you kind of if it's listed pretty much on that website, the card's supported. If it's not listed on the Solix website, the card's not supported. Generally speaking, it's people buying using onboard integrated graphics, or they're buying a gaming graphics card or something. It's usually the ones that aren't supported. When it comes more to the server side of things, so this is relevant for both the network license manager, but also for PDM or electrical, if you've got that on the server. The two main things for PDM and electrical is obviously SQL or SQL, and then obviously the Windows Server operating system. For the SQL side of things, if you are going to install PDM 2023, you will need SQL 2016 or newer. Now, if you're a PDM professional customer, just pay attention to SQL. If you're on SQL 2014 and you're thinking, I'll update to SQL 2016, you might think, oh, I can type into Google SQL 2016 or SQL 2019. You can download it for free. So it's download at least for free from the Microsoft website. But with PDM Professional, it does use SQL Standard, which is paid for. And generally speaking, back with SQL 2014 and older, SQL licenses were provided with SolidWorks, but from SQL 2016 onwards, that isn't the case anymore. We can't provide the SQL licenses with SolidWorks, we just can't do it. So you do have to buy the SQL licenses from usually a Microsoft reseller. So if you are updating, that is something potentially to talk to with your IT. And then obviously we've got the Windows Server requirements. Again, if you are going to update, maybe consider a wee bit of kind of future proofing if you want to get ahead of the game, so to speak. But this information, if you want, you can take a screenshot if you're online, or you can take a picture with your phone if you want. The information is also on the SolidWorks system requirements page as well. And then obviously for the release dates for things, obviously SP0, as Mike mentioned, came out on Monday, just a couple of days ago. And then for some people that like to wait for future service packs, this is a kind of rough schedule now. Doesn't mean it's fixed in place. Things can obviously change, but this is a kind of rough schedule. The things are there now for when different service packs will come out. And with that, that finishes up a number of things there.
Alex Lowe and Mike Nealon from TMS, but we're joined today by Nick Hopwood, Partner Technical Manager at DS, and also Tom Wallington, who's Partner Sales Manager at DS. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and I'll pass the mic around. But I'll start with a question we've had online. So our first question is, how does the 3DEXPERIENCE platform compare with PDM? Who would like to answer that one?
I can take that one. Yeah. So I think the presenters did a great job today at talking about both PDM and 3DEXPERIENCE platform. I think it's fair to say that both are great solutions, and typically a customer looking at either of those solutions has an issue with data management. Essentially, the biggest difference between those two solutions is one of them is on-premise and one of them is cloud-based. And both of those have advantages and disadvantages. We're finding more and more that customers are looking to move from on-premise solutions to cloud, and a large reason for that is because of the IT infrastructure that's involved with on-premise solutions. There's some particular relevancy around that. I know that supply chains have been very challenging, and even getting hold of things like servers have been quite tough. I've heard of long lead times to do that. So I guess a benefit of a cloud-based solution like the 3DEXPERIENCE platform is the ability to get access to that solution in days rather than having to wait for the server. So anything to add, anyone?
Yeah, I'd just say additionally, so Dassault Systèmes do have many other products available. So the strategy for Dassault is to integrate all of our brands around the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. So You can gain value from different brands. So we've seen some examples of some of the Delmere applications that are available with 3DEXPERIENCE, and that enables our SolidWorks user base to connect into them additional solutions via the 3DEXPERIENCE platform.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. You know, PDM is a great tool to use within the design office for everything you'd expect from a robust data management solution, version control, revisioning. But I would argue that, you know, it kind of hits the ceiling beyond that, whereas with the platform, you know, I always look at the 3DEXPERIENCE platform as a bit like the App Store. And once you're on the App Store, there's a whole wealth of other applications that you and the wider team can get access to. And some of those we saw today, like the manufacturing applications, the simulation applications, there's project planning. So actually, once you're there are many different routes that you can go down. So it's a good question.
Great, thank you very much, Tom and Nick, for that. We did have another question come in from people online. So one of them says, can you explain more about how the startup program works?
I'll take that. So the startup program is a program available to companies, obviously startup companies, whereby DS/SolidWorks will provide free software to the company. There's a lot of criteria that needs to be met in order for that to happen. But in principle, you know, if a company is a new company looking to invest or to investigate the SolidWorks technology, that technology will be provided to them free of charge. As I said, certain criteria needs to be met in order for that to happen. So, you know, if anyone in the room is aware of, you know, people who are in that position, startup companies, you know, if you're thinking of leaving, you know, and setting up yourself, whatever, then that's available to you as an option. But it takes away all the, you know, there's obviously expense involved in setting up a new business, and the ability to actually access that technology without any outlay is obviously a benefit to yourselves as a startup company. So in principle, that's how it works. If it's something that anybody is interested in, or like I said, knows somebody who's in that position, then, you know, please speak to any of us and we'll be able to help.
Thanks, Alex. Does anybody have any questions in the room?
I'll just be lazy and sit down. We've got a lot of aerospace members in here, and when we mentioned with them that we're going to save files on the cloud, they always ask who owns the cloud, who owns the server. So if we're putting stuff on the 3DEXPERIENCE that's on the cloud, do we know if it's like an Amazon server, or is it your own servers?
Yes, so Dassault Systèmes own the cloud infrastructure. It's actually a separate brand now, so you can purchase infrastructure as a service as well as software as a service from Dassault Systèmes. With regards to certain industries, we understand that there's certain regulatory requirements, particularly the aerospace industry has certain like ITAR regulations to stick to. So we do offer what we call on-premise solutions, so that's where it's an on-premise version of 3DEXPERIENCE platform.
There's also, if I can add there.
Yeah, go for it. Go.
There's another company, another brand that DS have acquired as well that are for that more high-level security cloud, and obviously for defence contractors and various other companies that require that level of security, that's where these people can jump onto that. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other questions in the room?
Oh yeah, how you doing? We're using the simulation package at the moment to kind of optimise some of our designs by using the design study and then taking the results and putting it into a topology study to refine it. But as far as we can tell, the design study gives a dimensionless response, and we have to use our kind of best guess to work out what the dimensions are and then put that into a topology study. Is there plans to integrate them, in the sense that the design study would give you a dimensioned part to then work with? With simple parts, it's quite straightforward, you can kind of just guess, but with more complex parts, it's quite difficult to gauge what the design study output's telling you to then put into a topology study.
Anything get there, Scott, on that one? Yeah.
Which application is it?
Simulation. All right. Simulation professional. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. I personally would need to have a look into that one, because I've not kind of really got to that stage yet. I don't know if you get any thoughts on that, Grant. I don't know if that's something you've looked into before, but.
So yeah, you can use dimensions if you use a sensor. So if you add a sensor to a specific part of a model, and then you can use that as an output. So it'll effectively come back and within your range, give you millimetre or inch, whatever you're using, as a dimension quantity, rather than, as you say, having to guess what size it's going to. So in reality, you can maybe end up with 5 or 6 sensors, just depending on how much you're looking to optimise.
Right, okay, so there's already a setup in there.
There is.
We just have to find it.
Yeah, sensors, and the tech team can help you out with that.
Yeah, just put a support ticket in for that and we can look into that.
Yeah, and if I understood your question correctly, we also have additional equivalent sort of capabilities on 3DEXPERIENCE. So we have a role called the Functional Generative Designer role. That allows you to do parametric and non-parametric optimization. So if you kind of go down the non-parametric approach, we have the ability to kind of link the non-parametric CAD underneath to parametric features such as curves, so you can drive them non-parametric shapes in a parametric fashion. I don't know if that helps or not.
Thanks very much. I've got another question from someone watching online who's asked, what's the future vision of Dassault Systems regarding SolidWorks and the 3DEXPERIENCE platform?
I can take that one. So we've got thousands of SolidWorks users out there, and I think in terms of the long-term strategy and vision is to continue to develop SolidWorks. I mean, we've seen today all of that enhancement that has gone into the software. It goes in year after year, has done since 96, 97 when SolidWorks first came out, and that's not going to stop. In terms of the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, for the first time, we've actually, or you guys have got access to technology which exists in Dassault System. You know, we're a large company with lots of different brands that exist within Dassault System, and up until now, the access to those other brands, for example, like Simulia, which is an industry-leading simulation package, that just hasn't been available. So the plan and the vision is to get as many of those SolidWorks users connected to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform to give you the ability to get access, if you so wish, to some of that fantastic technology that we've got in the wider Dassault System family. That would be the best answer I'd give. But Kevin, thanks for the question.
Yep. Great, thanks Tom. Anybody else in the room want to ask a question? No, I have another one from someone online that says, when will 2023 SP1 be available?
I'll take that one.
Was it Feb?
I try to remember his slide.
Did you already have the slide there?
I think it was February. I think I seen February.
I think it was February.
Yeah, the service packs now for SolidWorks are released in conjunction with the 3DEXPERIENCE platform releases as well. So that's one good thing. As the platform changes, SolidWorks changes also. So usually it's within February. Yep, confirmed February. So if anyone's obviously going to SP0 right now, that's fine. But just check again that everybody is in your company going to that service pack. And if you want to wait till SP1, that's fine too.
Great. I just have one more question. So just anybody want to ask anything, Liz? You're just making me walk.
Hi. We have floating and fixed licenses in NMIS for 2021 and 2022. Is that the same going forward for 23? And is it the same for the 3DEXPERIENCE?
I can take that. So you've got, so just to clarify, so at the minute you've got some floating or otherwise known as network licenses, and then you've got some standalone licenses as well. Is that correct? Okay. And was the question whether that's going to be continued into 2023? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, giving customers that flexibility. Yeah, that will continue. The other one that I'd add to that actually, which is a third licensing option, is term licenses. And that's great because you can buy in 3 or 6 month or annual terms if you get additional project workload or whatever. You know, the term license is there to give you that, you know, quick expansion capability at a low cost. With the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, it works slightly differently. So it's a named user, so everybody will have a login. The beauty of that is you can log in from anywhere, any device. You know, it's based in the cloud, so whether you be on a train with your phone, iPhone, or whatever it might be. But yeah, that's very much on a named user license, so it's a login essentially to get access to the platform. So slightly different to what you're currently used to with your SolidWorks license. Yeah, does that answer the question?
I think one thing to add on that is the term license, as Tom alluded to there. It's possible to have a term license that maybe only runs for 3 months, 6 months, whatever. So if you have a particular project that's coming in and you're maybe at that stage maybe using a perpetual license or whatever, or another term license, and you think that you need access to, you know, whether it's simulation, whatever it might be in terms of the product set from DS and SolidWorks, rather than having to commit to a full year expense, subscription, all that kind of thing, you know, you can commit to 3 months of term because you only need that license for a 3-month period. So it gives quite a lot of flexibility in comparison to the way we worked previously.
It's a really good point actually. Just to add to that, the term licensing model was limited to, I think, the CAD and the simulation, but actually from November it's opened up to pretty much the whole portfolio. So whether that be electrical or inspection, all of them now are available on term. So, you know, as Alex said, great opportunity to try it on a 3 month, see how you get on with it, rather than having to commit on a perpetual basis.
That's great. Thanks very much. We have just one final question now on simulation. So bear with me, it's technical. So with the contact penalty stiffness, how much accuracy are we trading off when we move that slider all the way to the left in order to speed up our solve time?
Okay, that's good. I'm glad we didn't have to answer that one.
Yeah, so it's a good question though. It's a really good enhancement as well, that one. But with that slider, you're not stuck one way or the other. So it's not like you do that and then you're sitting there for the full simulation. So you can move it to the left, to the kind of less accurate, quicker side, and you can test out a few different, in that case that we saw earlier, different stiffnesses. Kind of get a rough idea, and then when you actually want to run the full simulation, if you want a really precise result, you can pop it back over to the other side and get the full result. So that's the kind of thinking with that one. You're not stuck one way or the other, really. So that's the last question. Yeah, okay. So yeah, we'll just a quick wee kind of recap of some of the stuff that we've gone over. So obviously, I'm not going to go into this in any great detail. We saw, starting with the user experience, we kind of looked at some of the nice changes in there. We covered all the kind of usual stuff you would see in these events, like our parts or assemblies or drawings, that kind of thing. We also kind of brushed on some of the apps on that app store that we've just been talking about on 3DEXPERIENCE, like the 3D Sculptor and 3D Creator. Obviously then we saw things just before we went on to lunch. We saw kind of routing, visualize, some of the other products like inspection and composer and electrical as well. And me and Craig had our sections on sort of data management and simulations. So obviously if there's any questions still to be asked after that, if anyone wants to come up to us afterwards or send in a support ticket or give us a call, then we'll be happy to discuss it. But I think that's all we've got time for in terms of questions just now. So I'll pass you on to, I believe, Alex to close things off. Yeah, you've got a mic.
So thanks very much, Scott. So I would really just like to say thank you to everybody for coming along today. I feel kind of bad. Can I just stand up? I'd like to thank you all for coming along. There's obviously a lot of people who put a lot of time and effort into what you've seen today. I'd like to thank them. Laura is responsible for putting the whole event together, and in terms of getting the people here, arranging the guys from the production company, the sound company. You know, as you saw, everything went well, hopefully went fairly well and fairly slick. So from the Royal Concert Hall and the Royal Albert Hall to the AFRC, you know, it just it shows it's all possible. So I'd like to thank Laura for the work that she's done, the sound guys, and obviously for the guys, Mike and his team, the technical team. Again, every year, you know, fail to amaze me with the amount of stuff that they're able to put together and to get across. So I hope that it's all been useful for you. We hope that you've got some value from what you've seen. We hope you'll go back and start to investigate maybe some of the new stuff that you've picked up. And as Mike said, and as Scott just alluded to, you know, if there are questions, whether those are salesy things, support things, whatever it is, you know, please just feel free to get in touch, and we'll do everything that we can to help. I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add, Mike. Sorry, I'd also like to just remember the Tom and everyone who came up from SolarWorks, which again is very much appreciated, and we value your input to this. But yeah, hopefully the roads won't be so bad. Hopefully the M74s hopefully is clear, because I think we all had a bit of a problem getting here this morning. Mike, as I said, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to add.
Thank you again, as I said.
So we'll say bye for now. And, you know, if you, as I said, if you have any questions, you want to grab us, we're going to be here for a while, because we're going to be helping to get everything pulled back down again. So please just ask, and we'll do our best to help you out. But again, thank you very much for coming along. Thank you. Cheers.